Bai Lion offers a sugar-coated Hawthorn to Jiang Fulai, a simple gesture in a world of elite geniuses and family rivalries. As she steps onto the campus of Jiang University, a truck accident and the scent of sandalwood in Xiangguang's courtyard signal a gathering storm. Leave a like and subscribe to walk this path with her. 233 came to Beijing, gathered 3 he had been busy before. But back then, it seemed he had nothing else to attend to besides being busy. Bai Lion lowered her head, picked up a sugar-coated Hawthorn on a stick that was beside her phone, and handed it to him. Jiang Fulai looked down at the bright red sugar-coated Hawthorn, hesitated for a moment. "For me?" "Of course," Bai Lion said casually, her elbow resting on her knee and her palm propping up her chin. "I finished the one with the bird." She had bought these with Pu Ziohan at the food street next to Jiangyan at noon. Jiang Fulai had never eaten these before. His slender fingers pinched the bottom of the sugar-coated Hawthorn. "Do you like it?" "It's okay," Bai Lion replied offhandedly. Jiang Fulai glanced at her but did not ask any more questions. He stood up with the sugar-coated Hawthorn, ready to go back to his room to take a shower. "What do you want to eat tonight?" "Shrimp, I guess." Bai Lion hadn't really thought it through and just blurted out a response. Jiang Fulai nodded, went back to his room. The sugar coating on the Hawthorn was overly sweet, with a heavy saccharine taste, a gentleness hidden in the twilight. Yang Lin was on a train early the next morning. It was far from Xiangcheng to Jiangjing, and even a transfer flight took more than 10 hours. She was in for a 2-day train ride. Tang Ming and Ning Zio were set to leave a day after her. On the day of the Su family patriarch's birthday, from 7 o'clock in the morning, gifts from the political and business world wouldn't stop entering the Su family residence. Vehicles from all directions headed towards the Xinjiang district. When Bai Shayaki left in a car from the Yin family early in the morning, journeying from Yunxiao district to Chang'an district, she encountered several rare limited edition cars along the way, as well as some special license plates. She had never seen such a scene before. "Auntie, what's happening today?" Today, without Song Min, only the Yin family driver and Mrs. Song were in the car. Mrs. Song had heard some details from Mr. Yin. She withdrew her gaze. "Today, it seems that there's a celebration in Xinjiang district." As for which family was hosting, she didn't say, and Mr. Yin wouldn't discuss these things with her either, as the class gap was too wide. A black business car brushed past theirs. Bai Shayaki couldn't help but take another look. It was very similar to one she had seen in Baikeng with a Xiangcheng license plate, belonging to that person Bai Lion knew. "What is it?" Mrs. Song asked her. "It's nothing." Bai Shayaki withdrew her gaze and shook her head. How could that car appear in Jiangjing? Ordinary people buying a car was simple, but getting a Jiangjing license plate was not so easy. She lowered her head to unlock her phone. The simultaneous deployment of luxury cars also drew everyone's attention. The last crackdown in Yunxiao district had stirred up a buzz that hadn't yet subsided, and with these cars taking to the streets today, marketing accounts began speculating again. The moment Bai Shayaki opened her video app, there was a message from a marketing account. "What's with Jiangjing today? All luxury cars are out." The video was a compilation. 7 or 8 luxury cars flooded into an old street, and Bai Shayaki saw the name of that street, Tall's Street. Below, people were guessing. The top-liked comment read, "Today I'm lost." Image, "Don't bother. Today is an old gentleman's grand birthday celebration. Even the guests at the door are of the caliber of chief executive officers of Zhongxing." The IP showed Jiangjing. 29 Luz Street. After paying respects to the old patriarch, Su Juling came back to change into another set of clothes, preparing to greet the guests. "She's really not coming?" he asked as he changed into a long robe. "Yes," Gao Yan was also at a loss, dressed in a body-hugging cheongsam and holding a green jade teacup. "I've told her 3 times already." Gao Yan thought for a moment and decided to give Bai Lion a call. "Auntie?" Bai Lion was already at the train station by then. She stood at the entrance with heavy foot traffic, waiting for Yang Lin. Gao Yan's voice was very gentle. "Today at home, we've invited a chef from Kangyu Tower, whose forebears were imperial chefs in the palace. The snacks and dishes they make are really delicious. You can just come and eat something in my courtyard. You won't see other people." No, thank you, Bai Lion declined. I'm waiting for my classmate. Your classmate is also welcome to come. Okay then, have a good time. Gao Yan ended the call, exchanging a look with Su Juling. At least Gao Yan had met Bai Lion, whereas Su Juling hadn't even seen her. He wasn't as familiar with Jiang Fulai as Gao Yan was, and didn't dare to meet Bai Lion rashly. Outside the Su family gate, the Mu family's car also stopped. Mu Yining was dressed in smart attire, with a young man on her left and Jai Sheijun and Ren Wangshuan on her right. The Su family's gatehouse was very tall, and the two stone lions outside were extremely imposing. 2 rows of black-clothed bodyguards stood on either side, their attentive demeanor leaving no doubt that they could pull a gun from their pockets at a moment's notice. The large space in front of the gate was filled with parked cars. It was grand yet solemn. Wangshuan's gaze fell on the car outside, and she couldn't help but take out her cell phone to quietly snap a few pictures. Mu Yining noticed from the corner of her eye and shook her head secretly. The waiter led them to the central hall with great politeness. The central hall is for the young people. There's a rest room next door. Miss Mu, please have a good rest first. As he spoke, he handed Mu Yining a list and a half map of the Su family's old residence, both of which were open for today. It was Ren Wangshuan's first time entering such a large garden. She had only seen similar sights at tourist attractions before. This is my younger brother, Mu Yining introduced Jai Sheijun to the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man reached out to shake Jai Sheijun's hand. Jiangjing Station. Bai Lion had been waiting at the station for an hour. It was nearly 10 o'clock when Yang Lin finally came out. She had transferred from a train to a high-speed rail. Yang Lin usually only wore school uniforms, and her old-fashioned black suitcase was filled mostly with books. She still wore a long t-shirt, habitually covering her wrists and arms, with thick bangs that shielded her dark eyes. Standing amidst the crowd, she was almost invisible. This seemed to be a talent she was born with, to erase her presence to the greatest extent. "Let's go," Bai Lion said, taking her suitcase. She was always straightforward. Yang Lin had already chosen a place and would stay in the Mingfeng district before school started. Bai Lion put the suitcase in the trunk of the taxi and gestured for Yang Lin to get in the car. The taxi driver was very enthusiastic. "Where are you young ladies headed?" "Jiang University," Bai Lion replied as she and Yang Lin sat in the back seat. "You're here for a tour, right?" The taxi driver thought they were going to Jiang University to check it out and started introducing the delicacies of Jiangjing to Bai Lion. "You know about the old street, right? It's internet celebrity street. Too crowded, though. I wouldn't recommend going there." They arrived at Zior Avenue. Bai Lion scanned a code and took Yang Lin's suitcase out of the car. Pu Ziohan had been waiting at Jiang University's gate for them. She held a parasol and waved from a distance. "Alien, Yang Lin, over here." The 3 of them walked towards the gate. Bai Lion simply pulled out her campus card to enter. The driver, glancing in the rearview mirror, was almost popping his eyes out. "Incredible, Jiang University students are all so good-looking these days." Pu Ziohen put away the umbrella when she saw them approaching. She also had 2 cups of iced lemon water in her hands. Casually blocking one end of the straw, she pushed it into one of the cups and handed it to Yang Lin. "Drink this first. Let's go take the school bus." They all knew how to handle Yang Lin now. "Is it Nanmei Garden?" Pu Ziohen asked as they boarded the school bus. Nanmei Garden was located in Nanmei District, which was also the freshman area. The school bus could take them there. Bai Lion checked her WeChat. President, she had sent a message with the address. Nanmei Garden Dormitory, Building Number 2, Room 407. Yang Lin had already signed the agreement with Jiang University in advance. She had chosen the biology department. When Bai Lion knew she would come, she asked Shun Yu if Yang Lin could move into the dormitory building earlier. Every summer, a bunch of Jiang University students stayed on campus, but they had to move to the same building. President, she had everything arranged for her. Yang Lin must have been the first among them to enter the school dormitory. Still bewildered, she saw Bai Lion asking her to take out her ID card, register at the Academic Affairs office, and then go to collect the bedding provided by the school. Finally, They went to the mini-mart to buy daily necessities. Yang Lin stood at the checkout counter, scanning the code. Yang Lin walked out carrying the bag. The sunlight outside shone on her eyes. It wasn't intense, yet it was glaring and made everything seem unreal. Bai Lion trailed behind them, leisurely, answering a call from Jiang Fulai. "Did you pick up the person?" Jiang Fulai's voice was low, and the sound of equipment could be heard in the background. Ming Dingheng had wanted to stay today, but Bai Lion had refused. With one hand, Bai Lion opened a folding fan and placed it against her forehead to block the sun. "She's in the dorm now. Why are you still busy?" "Haven't left yet." She knew there was a family banquet at the Su family today. "Don't worry." Jiang Fulai's tone was relaxed. He set aside the things in his hands. "I don't really want to go." Bai Lion followed behind Yang Lin and Pu Ziohan with a smile. "How can you not go? But you can come back early in the evening." Jiang Fulai sounded reluctant. "That works too." After hanging up the phone, Bai Lion took a picture of the school and opened WeChat to send it to him. On WeChat, Tang Ming posted a message in the Xiangcheng Small Squad group chat. "I'm getting on the plane with Ning Zio, turning off my phone first." The few people from Xiangcheng First Middle School were about to arrive. Evening, one after another, cars left from the main entrance of the Su family, changing over to the evening banquet venue. The Mu family had 2 cars out today, and Mu Yining was talking to a man in a suit, calling him President Zio, with Jai Sheijun standing right beside her. "Mr. Chen is coming back," President Zio said to her. "If you want to find him, you should do it as soon as possible." Mu Yining thanked him. "Thank you." President Zio nodded, smiling. "Mu Zhao has been helping Bingwen, it's only right. But what about this younger brother of yours? What are you planning to do with him?" "First, a ceremony, and I'll directly give him the Yunxiao branch." Mu Yining had already been planning, but things seemed to be quite difficult now. Jai Sheijun had just arrived and was appearing for the first time today. "You must come by all means when it's time." Mu Yining hoped that the Mu family would work together and get better and better. Old Master Mu hadn't conducted a proper ancestry acknowledgement ceremony for Jai Sheijun, simply having written down his name perfunctorily. Mu Yining planned to officially organize one for him. She intended to formally introduce Jai Sheijun to others, and having a few important figures attend would be beneficial for both Jai Sheijun and the Mu family. "Certainly," President Zio nodded his agreement. What was the matter with Yunxiao district the other day? While still planning things about Jai Sheijun, Mu Yining changed the subject. Upon hearing this, President Zio lowered his voice. "It's related to both the Chen and Su families." Mu Yining was astonished inside. What could possibly involve both of these families at the same time? She glanced toward the main entrance of the Su family. Not far away, the butler and Zioji were waiting next to the car for a few people to come over. It was then that the Su family's main entrance thronged with people, with a young man whose face couldn't be made out clearly in the middle, standing next to a middle-aged man who was patting his shoulder. President Zio's gaze shifted toward the main gate. Seeing the young man, he looked somewhat emotional. "That's the Liang family person I mentioned to you, but it seems like there's another dark horse this year." Mu Yining looked in that direction too, feeling a stir in her heart. So it's him. Liang Wuyu. The two of them continued talking as they walked toward the car. Mu Yining had heard of him very early on. In his first year of high school, he was already in the laboratory ahead of time. Mu Zhao had always been in the same class as Liang Wuyu, and back then people had compared him with Mu Qiang, so she remembered him clearly. The butler stood behind the two, overhearing their conversation, and couldn't help but look over with a rare eagerness. "I've heard of him in the past 2 years." Jai Sheijun wasn't listening to their talk in detail. He was messaging Bai Lion. Bai Lion's birthday was approaching. Mu Yining and President Zio still had things to talk about. Jai Sheijun waited for them to finish before speaking softly to Mu Yining. "I won't be going with you. I'm going to see Alien." Taking the rare opportunity to be out today, he was also planning to see her. "Not attending the banquet?" Mu Yining asked him. Jai Sheijun felt a bit tired and after a pause, still declined. Knowing today that Mu Yining intended to introduce him to the Zio family, and understanding that he wasn't comfortable with such settings, she didn't persuade him to stay, All right, then have Zyoji take you over. Jai Shaejun got into the car. Zyoji knew Bai Lion was in the Shanghai residential complex, so he drove directly to Zior Avenue. Upon seeing Jiangjing University, he didn't slow down. Jai Shaejun looked at the address Bai Lion had sent on his phone, then raised his head to signal Zyoji that there was no need to go further. Stop here is fine. Shaejun got out of the car and thanked Zyoji. You can go back. No need to wait for me. He wasn't used to wearing formal attire and also took off his suit jacket, loosened his tie, and walked toward the gate wearing only his shirt. Jai Shaejun had been to Jiang University with Shen Qing before. At the time, it was the Office of School Affairs that had personally made the call. It had only been a little over 2 months, and although the security guard felt Jai Shaejun's temperament had changed somewhat, he still recognized him. It's you, he said, giving Jai Shaejun the green light to go in. Thank you. Jai Shaejun was about to send a message to Bai Lion, but when he saw the security guard open the school gate, he took out a pack of cigarettes from his pocket, pulled one out, and offered it to him. I'm here to see my niece. He explained the reason to the guard, said a few words, and then went inside. Bai Lion had said she was at the Statue Plaza, so Jai Shaejun went straight there to find them. Zyoji drove away, and in the rearview mirror, he saw Jai Shaejun chatting happily with the security guard, and then handing the guard at Jiang University a cigarette before going in. Since when was Jai Shaejun so close to the guards at Jiang University? Meanwhile, at Yonghui Garden, the venue for the Su family dinner, not just anyone could go to 29 Talls Street. Those who could deliver gifts to the Su family in person today had at least some political and business dealings with them. Many others only received the address for Yonghui Garden. A middle-aged man was greeting Mrs. Su and several others. Weniao, Mrs. Su said with a smile, introducing him to Su Weniao. You can just call him second uncle. Su Zhengfei looked at Su Weniao and nodded slightly, his tone friendly. Weniao, right? I heard from your grandmother you're applying for postgraduate studies. Not bad. He spoke a couple of words with Su Weniao, then looked towards Mrs. Su's back. Didn't you say that both kids in the family did well on the exams? One of them is this year's top scholar? Suen took another look at Mrs. Su when he heard her mention Bai Lion. Well, Mrs. Su sighed, the children have encountered some troubles recently. Su Jiyu had been discharged from the hospital 2 days earlier. Su En had arranged for her to see a psychologist, and although this was an occasion Mrs. Su would have wanted her to attend, there were too many people, so Su En did not let Su Jiyu come. I see, let's go inside. Su Zhengfei was a bit disappointed. Su Zhengfei led the Su family group into Yonghui Garden. Jai Mulin clutched Su En's hand nervously as she recognized several of the passers-by who she had seen in the news. Yonghui Garden was vast. After crossing nearly 200 meters of the avenue, one could see the resplendent banquet hall ahead, with a large artificial lake nearby. There was a pavilion in the center of the artificial lake with lights glowing inside. As Jai Mulin approached, she saw a black motorbike parked in front of the banquet hall doors, its streamlined model with a helmet hanging on the left side, reflecting a cold gleam under the lights, like a fierce beast lying at the entrance. Su Zhengfei, seeing Jai Mulin and her group looking at the motorbike, whispered, That should be the third young master's ride. Everyone familiar with Su Nanjing knew of the third young master's fondness for bikes. The third young master. Su En and Su Weniao, uninterested in the motorbike, took a closer look when they heard it belonged to the third young master of the Su family. Besides him, who else would dare to park their motorbike here? Su Zhengfei also gazed at the vehicle. He took Su Weniao and Su En inside. Many had already arrived in the resting area, most of the familiar faces sitting together talking, and they would nod in friendly recognition when they met others. At a grand feast like today's, anyone who could gain access was no ordinary person. Su Zhengfei led Su En's group to the second floor, respectfully knocked on the first door and bowed slightly, Uncle Lin. The door was opened from the inside, and Uncle Lin, dressed in a black robe, scanned Su En's group. The kid you talked about didn't come. She's not in a good state, Su Zhengfei answered with his head lowered. Uncle Lin nodded slightly, didn't ask further, just reminded Su Zhengfei, the old man is upstairs on the third floor with some important guests. Don't go up." After paying respects to Uncle Lin, Su Zhengfei went back down. The Su family group had no chance to talk and only glanced at the stairs to the third floor as they left. There were a bunch of people guarding the stairway entrance. On the third floor in the lounge, inside the thick, heavy door. When Elder Chen entered, the Su family's direct lineage was already present. Old Master Su was shaking hands with Chen family's patriarch, Chen Zio. "Elder Chen, with your health not being the best, we really appreciate you making the trip here." With a low cough, Chen Zio responded, "For such a festive occasion, it's necessary for me to come." Su Jueling and Su Juming also stood up to greet Elder Chen. Lao, dressed in a Tang suit and holding a white jade teacup, remarked as he looked at Su Nanjing sitting idly by his side, peeling sunflower seeds with evident boredom. "There's been quite a commotion. All the clubs in Yunxiao district were shut down for comprehensive reforms, and a large batch of people from the agency had been replaced, from the top down. It wasn't just online speculation. The commotion was so great that even Su Lao was aware of it." Chen Zio chuckled. "Nanjing is doing quite well." Whenever Su Nanjing was mentioned, Su Lao couldn't hide his satisfaction. Indeed, his abilities surpassed those of his father. As the two of them chatted, Su Juming, seated below, showed minute changes in his expression. The weighty door to the resting room was flung open. "Old Master, young Master Jiang has arrived." At those words, the room fell into an instant hush. Su Nanjing hurriedly stood up and looked towards the door, as Su Lao and Chen Zio also set down their cups and stood. Su Juming glanced at his son and daughter, his expression turning even grimmer. He knew that Su Nanjing had a good relationship with Jiang Fulai, but he hadn't expected Jiang Fulai to actually come. Outside the door, several figures slowly walked in. The man in the lead wore a white shirt, a silk-striped tie, and a black suit that was rarely seen outside, which made his face appear even more cold and his gaze icy. "Mr. Su, Mr. Chen, sorry for my late arrival." Jiang Fulai looked back and Ming Dingheng stepped forward 2 paces, handing a gift to Su Lao. "You've arrived at the perfect time, young Master Jiang," Su Lao said with a smile, his face creased with pleasure. Not until Jiang Fulai had taken a seat next to Su Lao did the others gradually take their seats. Su Juming approached Jiang Fulai with Su Jinyi and Su Jin to greet him. "Young Master Jiang." Jiang Fulai's eyes slightly lifted as he nodded faintly, pride mingled with his chilly demeanor. Today was Su Lao's birthday celebration, and the conversation revolved around light-hearted topics. Jiang Fulai did not join in, simply picking up the teacup by his side, lowering his gaze and gently blowing on it. His appearance was cold and distant, capable of chilling you from several meters away, deterring anyone from asking him anything. The noise in the resting room had quieted down considerably from before. A few minutes later, Jiang Fulai's phone chimed. He took it out and looked down. It was a message from Bai Lion. She was eating in the canteen with Jai Shaojun, Yang Lin, and others, and sent him a screenshot of a bank balance, 999,662.9. Jiang Fulai disregarded the account, his slender fingertips tapping on the phone's screen, and directly replied. "Is Uncle Jai still there?" His expression seemed noticeably softer. After sitting for a few more minutes, he gripped the phone. He stood up and politely said his goodbyes to the Su family members. Su Lao hadn't expected him to leave so hastily, but in the end, he didn't question him, assuming that Jiang Fulai, being a workaholic, must be returning to his lab. They took a private elevator from the 3rd floor to another exit, passing only through areas with security. Once Jiang Fulai had left, Su Jueling remembered the earlier discussion and turned to look at Su Nanjing. "What exactly is going on in Yunxiao district?" "I'm not too sure myself." Su Nanjing was actually puzzled as well. Given that Bai Lion was involved, he knew that Jiang Fulai wouldn't let Yu Hongjing and the others get away easily. Su Nanjing anticipated that the situation would be serious, but he had not expected it to be this severe, with a whole new batch of people in Yunxiao district replaced from top to bottom. Had things escalated to this level of severity? Not far away, Su Juming and his party came to a stop at the elevator entrance. Someone respectfully addressed Su Jinyi. Miss Chen has arrived." "Jinyi," Su Juming turned his head to glance at his daughter and then returned to his senses. Which Miss Chen? In Jiangjing's circle of well-known ladies, Su Jinyi was considered the leader, the only girl among the several major families in the area. Su Jinyi looked at the closing elevator doors. Chen Baixuan. Recently, Yu Hongyi's family got her into trouble. I don't know the situation, but they begged me to arrange a meeting with Miss Baixuan. Because of Chen Luping's connections, Su Juming also knew of Yu Hongyi. Upon hearing this, he said no more. Su Jinyi then turned around and went downstairs. On the second floor, Yu Hongyi, no longer as haughty as before, stood at the top of the stairs waiting for her. Upon seeing Su Jinyi, she managed to speak. Miss, by Yu Hongyi's side, Chen Luping, too, showed a dispirited face as he greeted Su Jinyi. Yu Hongyi wasn't directly involved in the club incidents. However, she was also under investigation, officially cooperating with the probe, with all of her work effectively on hold. Su Jinyi was well-connected and could get a foothold in any circle. Chen Baixuan was in the lounge at the end of the corridor, door wide open. Even in today's context, she was still dressed sharply, one hand crossed over her chest. Her gaze swept past Yu Hongyi and slightly nodded toward Su Jinyi. Su Jinyi did not intrude on their conversation. Miss Baixuan. Chen Baixuan was not Ming Dingheng. She had been on countless battlefields and the fierce aura about her was real. Yu Hongyi, under pressure, spoke up. I know my brother has offended someone he shouldn't have, but is the demanded penalty not too severe? Her words implied that she thought the Chen family and Jiang family were deeply involved in her current predicament. By Yu Hongyi's side, Chen Luping also followed with a nod. This matter, if it gets out, won't reflect well on that Miss Bai either. Chen Luping had heard of Bai Lion, a newcomer from Baikeng. The Jiang family was also mediating in this matter. As the two mentioned these points, Chen Baixuan lowered her crossed arms, hands in pockets, eyeing them. Do you think that the situation has escalated to this point solely because of the Jiang family or the Chen family? Yu Hongyi and Chen Luping bowed their heads and remained silent, implying agreement. Su En and his group didn't have much pedigree. And since Bai Lion was from Baikeng and there were no records of them in Jiangjing, who else could be responsible if not the Jiang and Chen families? At this stage, neither the Chen family nor the Jiang family are able to interfere. Chen Baixuan looked at the pair. The ones now in charge of the situation belong to the CLA. Ordinary people might not be aware, but the two of you should know, right? The fact that the CLA hasn't conducted a thorough investigation into 3 generations of the Yu family ancestry is already giving face to my grandfather. What? Upon hearing those 3 letters uttered by Chen Baixuan, Chen Luping and Yu Hongyi's expressions drastically changed. CLA, the country's special agency, the highest level of classified institution. Institute, is it my turn? Second update. 1. Why would they concern themselves with this matter? Chen Luping's hands were already trembling as he looked at Chen Baixuan. It wasn't Jiang Fulai who had an issue, was it? Let alone them. Chen Baixuan herself was startled when she found out who took over the case after learning about the incident. She looked at the two of them and said, both students are from Jiang University, and you know how protective Jiang University is of its own, right? One of them is this year's top Gaokao scorer from Jiang University, and the other girl, who has already had some drinks, ranks just behind Liang Wuyu as a student. Especially Bai Lion, she is personally protected by the president of Jiang University this year, basically pre-selected for the Tongfeng class. You've heard about the incident in the snowy mountains more than a decade ago, haven't you? Many professors and academicians died in that incident over a decade ago, and several promising young people from Jiang University were also buried in the snowy mountains. Because of that, scientific research suffered a huge blow, and development came to a halt. It caused a significant shakeup in the scientific community, and since then, the CLA has been specifically assigning people to protect these individuals. Yu Hongyi, with this kind of attention, your brother still dares to commit such an act in Jiangjing. He's essentially challenging the foundation of Jiang University. Now tell me, why wouldn't they deal with this matter? After saying this, Chen Baixuan left and exited the lounge. When Yu Hongyi heard Chen Baixuan mention that Bai Lion was this year's top Gaokao scorer, her expression became blank. She had originally thought that the Chen family made such a fuss only because of the suspension incident and Jiang Fulai's involvement. Little did she know there was this underlying reason. "You Hongyi, I've really been ruined by you this time," Chen Luping said, with cold sweat running down his back. Both of them had not come this far easily, especially Yu Hongyi, who originally moved out from Mingfeng district, like a fish leaping over the Dragon Gate. But now, being targeted by the CLA, the Chen family will no longer be able to use them. Not only that, no matter where they go in the future, they might be under surveillance at any given time. Shanghai apartment. When Jiang Fulai returned, Jai Shaojun was inspecting the environment in apartment 303. Pu Ziohen was showing Jai Shaojun Bai Lion's study. Bai Lion was on the balcony, taking a call from Tang Ming. She leaned against the balcony railing, fiddling with a pot of cabbage seeds that had sprouted, now about 5 centimeters tall. "Alien," Tang Ming has just gotten off the plane, making his way to the baggage claim area. "Uncle Zhang is also coming with us." "Uncle Zhang?" Bai Lion paused her fiddling with the cabbage, her pale fingertips gently touching the tender green leaves, squinting her eyes. "Is he coming to Jiangjing on a business trip?" Everyone in Class 15 knows that Zhang Shai's father is often away on business trips. Once he goes, it is usually for more than half a month. "Yeah, we just happened to run into him. It seems he's heading to Xinjiang district." It was noisy on Tang Ming's end as he hurried along. "Alien, Ning Zio and I are going to pick up our luggage first." In the living room, Jiang Fulai saw her on the phone and did not disturb her on the balcony. "Zio Jiang, you're staying next door." After learning that Jiang Fulai was next door, Jai Shaojun had him show apartment 302. The door was open, and Jiang Fulai led him straight to 302. The floors of 302 were carpeted for convenience, as Jiang He could assemble Legos anywhere, anytime. Jiang He was sitting on the carpet assembling Legos by himself. When someone came in, he even tried to hide the Legos behind him in a futile attempt at concealment. Seeing that it was Jai Shaojun and Jiang Fulai, he blinked dumbly. He then slowly took out the Legos from behind him again. He had been insistent on staying at Bai Lion's house for the past few days, and now remembered that the gift he was making for Bai Lion was not yet completed, so he was working overtime to finish it. "For Alien?" Jai Shaojun looked at the stuff on the floor and couldn't help but squat down, rubbing Jiang He's head. Jiang He nodded. Jai Shaojun talked with Jiang He for a bit, looked around apartment 302, and before leaving, he noticed the piano room in the middle and paused in his steps. In the center of the piano room were 2 guzhangs, with several simplified music scores scattered on the table behind them. After being educated by Bai Lion, Jai Shaojun could recognize the notations used by Bai Lion to transcribe music scores, their neat and well-behaved handwriting. That apartment 302 had a piano room was unexpected for Jai Shaojun. He and Jai Heng had considered finding a teacher for Bai Lion and knew she could play the guzhang, but hadn't thought about a piano room. He took a photo and sent it to Jai Heng. After visiting Bai Lion, Ming Dingheng drove Jai Shaojun back, Mu family residence. By the time Mu Yining returned, it was almost 11 at night. "Shaojun has gotten home, hasn't he?" "He has." The butler followed behind her, and after a moment's hesitation, still spoke up. "Miss, I heard some news tonight." "What news?" the butler pondered. "I heard that the incident in Yunxiao district is related to CLA. CLA. Having gone through the ordeal with Mu Qiang, Mu Yining knew what organization CLA was. Because of Mu Qiang, the people from CLA had once investigated the Mu family thoroughly. Which professor did they provoke? Mu Yining wondered in amazement. The butler did not find out that much. Mu Yining didn't press further, as the matter, no matter how much commotion it caused, had nothing to do with the Mu family. Her gaze was fixed only on the small yard ahead that was still lit, belonging to the Mu family's patriarch's Jinju garden, where the old man had not emerged all day. As expected, the lights at Jinju garden remained on. Standing still, the butler said, "Miss, please go check on the old master." Mu Yining walked to Jinju garden and stopped in front of the curtain to the entrance. From inside came the faint sound of a wooden fish. This sound made Mu Yining recall more than a decade ago, when Mu Qiang and the young members of the Mu family were still alive, and the old patriarch was still full of vigor, with the Mu family rivaling the Su family. But after the departure of Mu Qiang and the others, the Mu family had fallen from grace. The old patriarch never recovered, living only in the Buddhist hall. Mu Yining spoke softly, "Dad." The old patriarch did not speak. "I want to hold a ceremony for Shaejun to officially hand over the division to him," Mu Yining said. The old patriarch finally responded. His response was casual. Mu Yining looked at the curtain fluttering in the wind and ultimately said nothing more, turning to leave. Outside, the butler, upon seeing Mu Yining's expression, knew that she too had hit a wall. "The old master has been hit too hard." "I know, it's just..." Mu Yining looked towards Jinju Garden, her mind going back to the old patriarch's previous strategic prowess. Now that the Mu family is struggling to survive in the gap, and even Shaejun has come back, won't he emerge from seclusion? The old patriarch had once been a figure similar to old Master Chen. If the old master took up his spirit again, the butler looked back and muttered, "Our Mu family at least should have someone like young Master Mu Qiang." Alas, to wait for such a person to emerge would take no less than a century. "Forget it," Mu Yining no longer wanted to talk about these things. "Butler, please give them the gifts tomorrow." Mu Yining had prepared presents for both Ren Wangshuan and Bai Lion. The next day, early in the morning, Tang Ming rang the doorbell of 303. He placed his luggage in the corridor. Ning Zio stood beside him with one hand in his pocket, his eyebrows and eyes cast in a somber light. Jiang Fulai opened the door from inside, glanced at the two men with a relaxed posture and a cold aura. Tang Ming promptly stood up straight, and Ning Zio withdrew his hand. "Jiang bro." The two greeted Jiang Fulai. Jiang Fulai grunted in acknowledgement and let them in. Tang Ming, who had been chattering nonstop, was finally silent as his gaze fell on Ming Dingheng, who was handling food containers. His eyes lit up. "Hello," Pu Ziohen sat by the table, picking up a soup dumpling and casually waving to the two newcomers. Bai Lion sat next to Pu Ziohen, resting her wrist on the table with the other hand casually pulling out a pair of chopsticks, her demeanor relaxed. "Alien," Tang Ming and Ning Zio saw Bai Lion, their faces showing subtle excitement. They had finally regrouped. "Oh, by the way," Tang Ming remembered something. "Uncle Zhang said that the good kid is going to study at Jiangjing Affiliated Middle School." "Ah, can his school record be transferred?" Pu Ziohen opened her mouth in surprise. "And is he up for it?" Tang Ming didn't know how well Zhang Shi's had been doing in his studies. He glanced at Jiang Fulai, who was sitting on the sofa flipping through a magazine, and didn't dare to ask him. "Not sure." Tang Ming thought about what Zhang Shi's dad had said and also felt it strange. He instinctively lowered his voice. "Kai Lu said he might even need to go back to Xiancheng to keep a close watch on the kid at school." Yet Zhang's dad said his son's record had been transferred to Jiangjing. Bai Lion didn't pay attention to their conversation, as she wasn't well versed in school registration matters, and didn't think it was odd that Zhang Shi's, a student who had struggled academically, could now study at an affiliated middle school. In her eyes, Zhang Shi's was okay. Her phone rang beside her, and she glanced down to see it was a call from Scholar Ma. After finishing her dumpling, she answered the phone. On the other end, Scholar Ma didn't wait for her to speak, preemptively lamenting. "Bai student, are you still busy? Don't you plan to come see my research institute?" Ma was usually busy with work, and although he no longer mentored students, some postdocs would still seek him out for advice on general directions, even though they often couldn't find him. He also had to attend evaluations, forums, academic conferences, and many issues within the team required consultation with him. Bai Lion had been in Jiangjing for quite a while, but he hadn't found the time to see her, just waiting for her to come over. However, as soon as Bai Lion arrived, she joined Su Weniao and Chen Hong in participating in mathematical modeling, and then there was Su Zhiyu's business, so she also didn't find the time. "I'm free these next few days," Bai Lion put down her chopsticks. "These few days?" On the other end of the phone, academician Ma picked up his laptop. "Then how about today? I will be at the institute. Just come here. I will give you the address. The two hung up the phone, and academician Ma sent the address to Bai Lion. Bai Lion looked down at the address, the Quantum Information Research Institute. After eating, Pu Ziohen asked Tang Ming and the other, "Where do you guys live?" When she came to Jiangjing, Pu's mother also wanted to come with her, but after learning from Jai Heng that Pu Ziohen was living with Bai Lion, Pu's father and mother were no longer worried. Their family inexplicably trusted Bai Lion. Ning Zio put down his book, always one to get straight to the point. "Upstairs! Upstairs!" Pu Ziohen looked up. On the 5th floor, his uncle seems to have given him an apartment, 501. Tang Ming only found out about this when he got up from the hotel this morning. Pu Ziohen was surprised. The entire class 15 were ordinary students, and Ning Zio was usually not much of a talker. His clothing, just like Yang Lin's, was always just the school uniform, and everyone thought his family was not very well off. Now his uncle had given Ning Zio an apartment. Bai Lion was just renting. Ning Zio, a gift. While everyone was talking, Ming Dingheng couldn't help but glance at Ning Zio. He lived in 301, which was given to him by Jiang Fulai. Shanghai apartment wasn't a high-end complex, but it was still a school district house, and the price was not low. Ming Dingheng couldn't afford it for the time being. That was fine. Did he pay for Social Security? Ming Dingheng looked at Ning Zio, falling into doubt. The Quantum Information Research Institute was close to the Science Museum. It was a bit far from Jiang University. In the 11th floor conference room, academician Ma, who was sitting in the front listening to a report, glanced at his phone. It was almost time. He stood up, pressing down on the table. "That will be all for today's morning meeting." He was wearing a checked t-shirt, his hair not neatly combed, and a pair of large glasses sat on his nose. He stood up, holding the report. The young teachers in the team gathered their belongings, noticing that academician Ma had left early. Some hurriedly followed. Researchers and professors met along the way were particularly excited to greet academician Ma. Academician Ma mostly conducted research with his own team and now didn't mentor students. He had almost vanished from sight, mostly seen in news ceremonies for some awards. "Academician Ma," the assistant caught up with him. "Director Huang asked me to inquire if you would be taking the undergraduate course this year." The assistant professor wondered internally as he spoke. Academician Ma rarely taught undergraduate courses, only when he was covering for other professors. What was Professor Huang thinking? "No." Academician Ma stretched out his hand to open the door to his office, stopped mid-sentence, and suddenly remembered something. The large class in Tongfeng, topological quantum computing. The assistant followed behind academician Ma. "You're taking topological quantum computing." "It's not certain yet." Academician Ma stood at the door, not going in, but tilted his head slightly. "Go to the entrance and fetch someone for me. A girl, her name is Bai Lion." As he spoke, academician Ma gave out a number. The assistant took note and, seeing there were no further instructions from academician Ma, went down to meet the person. As soon as he reached the ground floor, he dialed Bai Lion's number. The number displayed was not from Jiangjing, but from Ziying Cheng. "Hello, Miss Bai. Where have you reached? Academician Ma asked me to wait for you at the entrance." The assistant spoke while looking toward the door. From the phone, a girl's voice responded. "I'll be there in a minute." A lazy and clear voice. The assistant initially thought the person academician Ma asked him to meet would be a professor around his age. He did not expect her voice to sound so young. "All right, I'm in a black tracksuit, waiting for you at the entrance." The assistant hung up and started to ponder the identity of this young woman. Before the minute was up, he saw a girl in a tie-dyed off-white linen dress, loose and lazy, with a belt in the same color casually tied around her waist. Guess too atop her head was a simple and old-fashioned wooden hairpin. Her fair skin was bathed in sunlight, creating a distinctly luminous effect. Both her temperament and appearance stood out notably. Just when the assistant was wondering if she might be a celebrity, the girl stopped in front of him. With her long eyelashes casting a shadow, she politely asked, "Are you the assistant to academician Ma?" "Ah, yes, I am." The sunlight was blinding, and the assistant, overwhelmed by her stunning face, came back to his senses and turned to lead Bai Lion upstairs. "Academician Ma is waiting for you on the 11th floor." The 11th floor. Academician Ma poured Bai Lion a cup of water using a disposable cup. His computer was on, and Bai Lion, sitting in front of his computer, was opening a file. "This is the team's new research proposal, adjusting the global entanglement gate." Bai Lion's interest peaked instantly, and she raised her languid brows slightly. "Quantum benchmark testing." She understood immediately. No one dislikes a clever student. Academician Ma stood beside her, took a sip of water, and said, "Right, the team's work. The paper will be published next week. I'll send it to you then." "Are you going to test for the Tengfeng class?" He suddenly remembered something. "Yes," Bai Lion nodded as she looked at the file. After placing down his disposable cup, Academician Ma felt considerably cheered and told the assistant to take over the class for him. Then he spoke in a gentle tone. "Take your time, there's no rush. I will take you down to the lab this afternoon to have a look. If there's anything you don't understand, just ask." The assistant, who had been listening to their conversation, finally let out a breath and cast a deep glance at Bai Lion. Lunchtime. In the institute's cafeteria, someone holding chopsticks asked Academician Ma's assistant, "Teacher Yun, why did Academician Ma suddenly come to the institute today?" The current quantum trio was the center of attention, with many people keeping tabs on their movements. Assistant Yun, holding his own meal plate, thought to himself, "What's this? He's going to the Tengfeng class to teach undergraduate new students about topological physics later. That news is even more explosive. There are only so many on Academician Ma's team, and he only mentors a few students, each a titan in their field. The last person he mentored was Director Huang. Assistant Yun knew that the scientific community in China didn't lack talent. It lacked first-rate, top-notch talent. Academician Ma had always preferred to lack for quality rather than compromise for quantity. He hadn't taken on any students in recent years, leading most to assume he wouldn't take on any more disciples. If he really were to take on another student at this time, that would mean a little junior sister to a group of titans. He could already feel the immense pressure in advance. August 7th, Jiangjing Mingfeng Airport. The flight from Baikeng landed, and Director Chen, along with Jai Heng, got off the plane. He took Jai Heng to the baggage claim area, and while waiting for Jai Heng's luggage, asked, "Uncle Jai, are you going fishing tomorrow? I haven't seen Brother Jai in a long time, and I wonder if he's been busy lately." Director Chen had been busy with the handover in Xiancheng and preparing election materials in Jiangjing. He hardly had any spare time. Thus, his fishing outings with Jai Heng were scarce. Now that he had just returned to Jiangjing and was not busy, he planned to invite Jai Shaojun and Jai Heng to go fishing. Jai Heng still had his tobacco pipe in hand. He had a strong addiction to smoking but refrained from lighting up in the airport as he didn't have a lighter on him. His gaze was fixed on the luggage carousel. "I can't tomorrow, it's Alien's birthday. Let's go in a couple of days." Jai Heng had timed his visit to arrive in Jiangjing the day before Bai Lion's birthday. "Bai Miss has a birthday tomorrow." Director Chen just learned about this. He pondered what gift to prepare for Bai Lion, considering the tight schedule. Jai Heng hadn't told Bai Lion about his trip to Jiangjing. In the parking lot, Jai Shaojun and Shen Qing came to pick up Jai Heng. In the car, Jai Shaojun discussed with Jai Heng about Bai Lion's birthday. "Ziohen is also in Jiangjing now. It'll be lively with classmates around." This was also the first time for Jai Shaojun and the others to celebrate Bai Lion's birthday. Jai Shaojun's apartment complex. The building's butler came looking for Jai Shaojun and Shen Qing, but came up empty-handed. Inside the house, Ren Wangshuan received the gift. What Mu Yining had given her was a bag, and even without unwrapping it, she knew it was a limited edition that couldn't be ordered without being a premium member. Ren Wangshuan hugged the gift box and honestly said, "Auntie and the others went to book a hotel." "Hotel?" The butler looked over with interest. Ren Wangshuan said, "It's Bai Lion's birthday, isn't it?" She barely spoke with Jai Shaojun, and Jai Shaojun rarely initiated conversations with her, so she didn't know much. Hearing this, the butler didn't ask further, just shook his head. When he comes back, tell him to hand over the documents to the young lady as soon as possible. He still needs to be serious during this time." "Okay." Ren Wangshuan saw the butler out. Ren Wangshuan lived upstairs. Since coming to Jiangjing, she had made a wide circle of friends and was hardly ever seen. Only after Jai Sheajun returned did she go downstairs to convey the butler's message. The moment she opened the door and saw Jai Heng sitting on the sofa, Ren Wangshuan was stunned. She had no idea that Jai Heng was going to be there today. She lowered her eyes and approached. "Grandpa." Jai Heng placed his tobacco pipe on the coffee table and grunted a response, not one for many words. Ren Wangshuan saw Jai Sheajun and Shen Qing cooking in the kitchen. Despite the range hood, the kitchen was filled with smoke, so she stood at the door. "The butler said you should hand in the documents early." "Okay," Jai Sheajun replied in a deep voice, carrying out a plate of food. His demeanor was cool and stern. However, it was Shen Qing who sheepishly smiled at Ren Wangshuan. "Alien's birthday is tomorrow. Are you coming, Wangshuan?" "By Lion's birthday." Ren Wangshuan held her phone, shaking her head unconsciously. "I have plans with someone tomorrow." That night, at Shanghai apartment 302. When Jiang Fulai opened the door, he saw Jiang He sitting by the sofa with the small lamp on. Jiang He had finally finished his busy work and was sitting on the carpet drawing. Jiang Fulai put the keys aside, turned on the overhead light, and glanced up to see the door to the middle room also open. Bai Lion was lazily sitting beside the guzheng, one hand propping up her chin, the other holding a pen, her legs crossed, her eyes and brows exuding a casual air. Upon seeing Jiang Fulai return, she lazily lifted her head in a perfunctory greeting. "Why so listless?" Jiang Fulai turned on the lights in the music room as well and walked to the window to open the soundproof windows. A breeze came in, lifting the white papers beside her. Jiang Fulai lowered his gaze, his long lashes casting a shadow as he noticed the balled-up sheets of paper next to her. He bent down to pick them up, his well-defined fingers smoothing out the crumpled sheets. It was a simplified score. He gathered and flattened all the papers, then approached her, lowered his head to take the black pen from her hand, and guided her hand, his pale eyes intent. "Let's go eat first." His fingers were always cool to the touch, even in summer. On his fingertips was a thin layer of callus. Bai Lion looked up at him, briefly startled before responding, "Oh." 303, when Bai Lion came over. Pu Ziohen was lying on the sofa, on the phone with Dean Jian. Dean Jian was talking to her about a new video. Pu Ziohen switched the TV to another channel, lowering her voice. "The day after tomorrow, then. I'm celebrating Alien's birthday tomorrow." Jiang Fulai stood with one hand in his pocket, following behind Bai Lion, his figure tall and proud, his presence noble and aloof. He pondered for a moment, then took out his phone and sent a message to Academician Ma at a leisurely pace. Fulai sent the message, then put his phone back into his pocket. The phone vibrated several times, but he did not look at it immediately. When Ming Dingheng saw Bai Lion and Jiang Fulai come in, he took the dinner that was in the thermal box out again. Pu Ziohen glanced at Jiang Fulai coming in from the corner of her eye, then climbed up from the sofa, sat up straight, and spoke softly to Dean Jian. Only Bai Lion, Jiang Fulai, and Jiang he hadn't eaten yet. Jiang Fulai lowered his eyes to the table where the food was laid out. The dishes were freshly heated and still steaming. Bai Lion sat down on the chair, picked up her chopsticks with a casual air, and seeing him still standing there, she couldn't help but raise her head. "Aren't you eating?" By her side, Jiang he took a sip of water from his bok choy cup, then looked up and blinked. Jiang Fulai came to his senses. He sat down next to Bai Lion. "Eat." Bai Lion woke up very early, changed out of her pajamas and put on a sports shirt. The phone rang, and she answered it, turned on the loudspeaker, and casually set the phone aside. She bent down to open the bedside cabinet and took out 6 large blocks of iridium. "Sister," it was Xiaoki on the phone, his voice polite. "Hall Master Jin has arrived, and there's also a Mr. Su." She slowly tied the iridium onto her limbs with red ribbons, which made her wrists even whiter, and the red gems on them sparkled brilliantly. "That's Suhi. You coordinate with Hall Master Jin to make arrangements for him." She had now built up her physical strength, and aside from her morning exercises, she would usually remove the iridium. Zioki knew her daily schedule and had called her on time. The location should be in Gwangyuan District. Hall Master Jin said they are waiting for notification from above. Okay. After finishing the call, she picked up her Bluetooth headset and opened the door to her room. She looked down. Jiang-hee was bending down and pushing a large gift box towards her door, which was 1 meter away from her. The blue gift box was square, with a length of 80 centimeters, and he had a hard time holding it and did not want anyone to help. Ming Dingheng, with an expressionless face, followed behind him. Seeing Bai Lion come out before he had finished placing the gift, Jiang-hee lowered his head, and a cracked expression appeared on his delicate little face. Bai Lion hesitated for a moment as she looked at the butterfly knot on the blue gift box. She vaguely remembered today was the 8th of August. It was also the 2nd day of the 7th lunar month, her birthday. For me, she crouched in front of Jiang-hee, looking up at him. Jiang-hee let go, his dark eyes met hers, and he spoke sulkily. Yeah. He had gotten up particularly early today, intending to place the gift at her door before she came out. His keen sense of numbers had allowed him to guess everything, but the only thing he hadn't anticipated was his own physique. It wasn't enough to lift the gift box. Thank you. Bai Lion patted his head, crouched in front of him, and opened the gift box. As she expected, inside was a piece of assembled Lego. It was the scene from the first time she met Jiang-hee, with a water wheel in the back, a bus stop in front, and further ahead, a black car. A massive project. She easily picked up the Lego and placed it on the bookshelf in her study. Bai Lion lifted it as if it were weightless, as though she was handling a mere feather, and Jiang-hee looked up at her, opened his mouth, and had the expression of someone watching a horror movie. Behind him, Ming Dingheng folded his arms and looked down at Jiang-hee's expression, his lips twitching. At noon, in the study, Bai Lion propped her hand on the computer screen, her eyebrows and eyes drooping, while her other hand controlled the printing of documents on the screen. On her computer's WeChat page, messages from He Wen kept coming. He Wen, a study of topology, one of light quantum. He Wen, haven't you finished reading them yet? He Wen. Bai Lion extended 2 fingers, unhurriedly typing out one word, no blunt. Jiang-hee sat on a stool next to her, holding a game console, swinging his legs as he played. Pu Ziohan and Tang Ming had left the apartment early in the morning. After the documents were printed, Bai Lion reached out to close He Wen's chat window, but at that moment, her phone rang. It was Jiang Fulai, his voice lacking its usual coolness as it came across the electromagnetic waves. I'll be back in half an hour. Bai Lion was looking for a stapler, methodically stapling the documents together. Okay. What are you doing? Jiang Fulai heard the sound of the printer through the phone. He Wen has 2 documents. Bai Lion pressed down on the stapler with 2 fingers, her tone casual. I just printed them out, look at them tomorrow. Jiang Fulai's voice became a few degrees colder. 2 documents. What's the problem? Bai Lion raised her eyebrows. Nothing. On the other end of the phone, Jiang Fulai tapped the wooden box in his hand with an air of nonchalance, his face cool and detached. He didn't continue to discuss the issue of the 2 documents with her. I'll come over. He hung up the phone, his gaze fixed on a small garden ahead. Let's go. Behind him was a long corridor with carved railings. By his side, a middle-aged man was bowing his head respectfully. Yes. He Wen, who was looking at data in the lab, suddenly sneezed. The person next to him glanced at the air conditioning temperature, and though he didn't think it was high, he still offered, I'll have someone turn up the heat a bit. Yunxiao district had been cracking down for over half a month. Most clubs and major bars hadn't recovered. The unaffected ones were only a few. Among them were Qinglong Bar and Saijing Club. There were many rumors about the backgrounds of these 2, and most people knew they were no simple matter. Saijing Club. Bai Lion and Jiang Fulai arrived with Jiang-hee. A manager was waiting at the entrance. Upon seeing the 2, he hurriedly stepped forward to greet them. Young Master Jiang, Miss Bai, the 3rd master is already waiting for you at the top floor. He bent at a 90-degree angle, not daring to look directly at Bai Lion and Jiang Fulai. But as he bowed, he saw Jiang-hee being led by Bai Lion. The manager quickly flashed a friendly smile at Jiang-hee. Jiang-hee saw him bending his back 90 degrees. Saijing Club was only open for Bai Lion and her group today. The manager didn't recognize Bai Lion. But he knew exactly what kind of person this young master Jiang was. He respectfully led them to the internal elevator and glanced at the girl by Jiang Fulai's side using his peripheral vision, wanting to remember her face. Just catching a glimpse of her loosely tied-up dark hair and feeling the faint pressure emanating from the person next to her, the manager was alarmed, swiftly averted his gaze, and only after the oppressive sensation on his body had dissipated did he cautiously wipe the sweat from his own forehead. The rumors indeed had not deceived him. In the top-floor private room, Pu Ziohan and Tang Ming had arrived early to decorate the room. Pu Ziohan held streamers, directing Su Third Master and Ning Zio. Master Su, lower the A a bit, scholar, shift your R to the left a bit, right, just like that. Not far away, several core attendants were bringing in the items they needed. The core staff of Saijing Club were all too familiar with Su Third Master. Currently, as they watched Su Nanjing being instructed by a girl, they couldn't help but glance in that direction. Pu Ziohan and Ning Zio were unfamiliar faces, completely distinct from the well-known young masters and misses they were acquainted with. Who exactly were they? And they were commanding Su Third Master like this. The attendants set down their items and left with their heads lowered, just as they saw the manager personally escorting a few people over. Young Master Jiang, Miss Bai, this is the place. The manager personally opened the door, letting Bai Lion and her group enter. The attendants beside him kept their heads down, not daring to look around. Before the door closed, they thought they heard the voice of Master Su, "Alien, my dear sister." Once the door was shut, the attendants looked up at the manager. "Manager, who are they?" The manager himself couldn't fathom the identities of these people. He just instructed, "Attend to them carefully, remember their names and faces." He lowered his head to retrieve a pager, sending out a message. Then, turning back to look at the private room, the past 2 months had not been peaceful, with several crackdowns that left him quivering with fear, and now. What kind of people had come to Jiangjing? Inside the private room, Pu Ziohan pulled Bai Lion to take photos, and seeing there was nothing left for him to do, Su Nanjing walked over to Jiang Fulai's side, poured himself a glass of wine, and lazily swirled his glass. "Alien, are there still a few guests coming?" He had prepared a gift for everyone who came today. Her uncle, aunt, and grandfather. Jiang Fulai stood aside, his gaze on Bai Lion's direction, his tone indifferent. There should also be a teacher coming. Uncle, aunt, grandfather. Su Nanjing was surprised. He knew Bai Lion's grandfather, who lived on Purist Street, but now he had come to Jiangjing. "Zioki and brother Mao haven't arrived yet," Tang Ming added as he moved a stool over. Zioki, brother Mao. Su Nanjing had thought Bai Lion only had a few friends like Tang Ming in Jiangjing. But now who were these two, Zioki and brother Mao? He was pondering this when the door to the private room was again respectfully opened by the manager. Institute Scholar, first update. One, the manager respectfully led Zio Bingwen inside. He had just gone downstairs to prepare the cake, and upon entering, immediately saw Jiang Fulai's face, blurred by the lighting. The relaxed smile on his face vanished. "Mr. Jiang." He greeted Jiang Fulai. Zio Bingwen tensed up, not daring to look around anymore. He just sat next to Su Nanjing and asked in a low voice, "Why are they all in Jiangjing?" Zio Bingwen was asking about Pu Ziohan and her friends. "They all got into schools in Jiangjing." Su Nanjing heard from Pu Ziohan, who said she was accepted into Media University. "How come they all study so well?" Zio Bingwen was astonished. The Su family had recently been busy with the old master's birthday. Zio Bingwen hadn't had a break with all the recent collaborative cases. He was only able to take some time off today to help plan for Bai Lion's birthday. The two were still talking. Jiang Fulai glanced at his phone beside them. Jai Sheajun texted that they had arrived. He switched off his phone and opened the door to go out. Su Nanjing also stood up and said quietly, "It seems Alien's grandfather has arrived." As soon as Jiang Fulai stepped out, Zio Bingwen let out a sigh of relief and also stood up, looking toward the door of the private room. "Miss Bai's grandfather, huh?" It wasn't long before the door to the private room opened again. A group of people came in from outside. Leading the way were two elderly men, one with a hand behind his back, the other carrying a smoking pipe, chatting together as they walked in. Behind them followed the composed Jai Sheajun, as well as Shen Qing, who barely dared look around. Jiang Fulai was speaking to the manager with his head down. Su Nanjing watched Jai Heng, then turned his eyes to Dean Jian, who seemed to be having a delightful conversation with Jai Heng. It took him a moment to recognize them. He knew Dean Jian. His mother had barely managed to set it up through old Master Chen, and eventually, Bai Lian knew him personally. A representative of traditional Chinese music. So the man next to him must be Bai Lian's grandfather, right? How come he seemed so familiar with Dean Jian? The two chatted and laughed as if they were kindred spirits, resonating like a high mountain stream meets an understanding friend. It was not until they approached that Su Nanjing came to his senses. He set down his wine glass. Dean Jian, Grandfather Jai, Uncle Jai, Auntie, hello, I'm Su Nanjing. The lights in the private room were bright enough. Bai Lian, who had been coordinating with Jiang He for Pu Ziohen to take pictures, also seemed to notice something and looked over, immediately spotting Jai Heng and Shen Qing among the group. She had left Xiangcheng at the end of June and hadn't seen Jai Heng for a month and a half. Their communication was mostly through video calls. They had a call just the night before, and Jai Heng was still at the familiar courtyard. She didn't expect to see him in Jiangjing today. Bai Lian stood up, grandfather. At her call of grandfather, Pu Ziohen turned around in surprise, and upon seeing Jai Heng, she immediately dropped her camera and ran over excitedly. Grandfather, grandfather, how come you're here? Yes. Jai Heng, always serious, allowed a rare smile to cross his face. He greeted Pu Ziohen and then turned to look at Bai Lian. She hadn't lost weight, and she looked well. He nodded his head. Lastly, he looked down at Jiang He beside Bai Lian and smiled again. You've grown taller. Tang Ming and Ning Zio, after not seeing Dean Jian and Jai Heng for some time, greeted, Grandfather Dean Jian. Compared to the more reserved Bai Lian, the sunny and outspoken Pu Ziohen hugged Jai Heng's unoccupied arm. Grandfather, how long will you stay this time? Do I have a chance to get the Warring States robe now? The Warring States robe? Jai Heng looked at her with some interest. I want to make a video with Dean Jian, and we need the Warring States robe, Pu Ziohen explained. I've been unable to find what I want online. As she spoke, Dean Jian added from the side, That's right. The group gathered and casually started chatting. Next to Su Nanjing, Zio Bingwen finally snapped out of it. He didn't recognize Jai Heng, but, Nanjing, he said, looking at the senior, whose back was to him, with a dignified stance and an artistic aura about him, commanding respect without anger. That's Dean Jian, right? He was acquainted with Leng Xiu, and naturally, he knew of Dean Jian. His impression was that even Leng Xiu faced a strict attitude from Dean Jian. Dean Jian had very high expectations for his students, and although the 3 students were carefully selected by him, he was not entirely satisfied and remained impartial. Aside from attending classes, his disciples could not dream of inviting Dean Jian to a meal. What was he doing here today? Yes, Su Nanjing had met Dean Jian before and was not surprised. What puzzled him was why people like Jai Heng and Pu Ziohen seemed to be so familiar with Dean Jian. Alien plays the Guzheng well. She and Dean Jian have a friendship transcending age differences. Institute scholar, first update, Tu Zio Bingwen was truly astonished now. An intergenerational friendship. Does Bai Lian play the Guzheng that well? He couldn't resist looking toward Bai Lian, as well as the few people beside her. Pu Ziohen put down the camera and brought up the fact that Jai Heng was going to stay here for a long time. So you're going to be residing here frequently. I'll be living here for a while. Jai Heng set down the pipe in his hand. Several people sat down around the coffee table. Zio Bingwen sat next to Su Nanjing. Opposite to him was the director of the institute, and Jiang Fulai was also there. He felt as if sitting on pins and needles, in contrast to Pu Ziohan and Ning Zio's group, who all seemed more at ease than he was. Calling Jiang Fulai, Brother Jiang, and the institute director, Grandpa Jian. Even if he talked about this, it would be hard for people in the circle to believe it. Outside the private room, the manager brought 2 more people in. One blonde, one redhead. Quite a lively scene. As soon as Pu Ziohen looked up, she saw Mao Kun and Xiao. "Brother Mao, you guys are a bit late. Did Zioki not come?" She looked back but didn't see Zioki's figure. Su Nanjing set down his wine glass and recognized the blonde in the middle at a glance. It was the spirited youth he had briefly seen before at the intersection of Purist Street. How could this person also be in Jiangjing? "Ah, Hall Master Jin has arrived. He is settling in those masters." Mao Kun, wearing slippers, greeted by Lion and Jai Heng casually. "Grandpa, sister." Mao Kun often fought over washing dishes with Director Chen. Jai Heng had a deep impression of him. In his eyes, these were all lively juniors. "Are you working in Jiangjing now too?" Jai Heng invited Mao Kun to sit down quickly. The moment he arrived in Jiangjing, it was so lively, with the children's chattering voices all around. Jai Heng's smile was very evident. When Director Chen brought his decades-old wine collection over, a group of people were already sitting together in high spirits. His status nowadays had improved a lot, and after his return this time, being promoted to the top position in Yunxiao district wouldn't be a problem. Of course, Director Chen had also caught the right moment. Yunxiao district was cracking down hard this time, and there had been a thorough change from the top down. With his achievements and reporting back at this time, it was just right to take over the position at the top. Zhao Bingwen certainly knew his father now wanted to stand by his team. He quickly stood up and greeted Director Chen politely. "Director Chen." Director Chen nodded at Zhao Bingwen, and after greeting Jiang Fulai, Jai Heng, Bai Lion, and the others, he said to Jai Heng, "Uncle Jai, we too should really have a good drink today." It had indeed been a long time since they last met. The group had a lot to talk about. To Bai Lion's left was Jiang He, to her right was Jiang Fulai, and next to Jiang He was Shen Qing, who was peeling shrimp for Bai Lion and Jiang He. "They want me in charge of the branch office." Jai Shaojun sat next to Shen Qing, telling Jai Heng about the recent developments. Holding his wine glass, Jai Heng nodded upon hearing this. "It should indeed be yours." Jai Shaojun poured some wine. "They want to hold an ancestry rite." After taking Jai Shaojun out for a spin last time, most people in the circle were aware of Jai Shaojun's existence. What right? Director Chen was always very keen on matters concerning Bai Lion's family. When he heard Jai Shaojun speak, he looked up immediately. "It's not certain." Jai Shaojun looked at Director Chen. "I'll let you know when it's confirmed." He spoke briefly, and the conversation shifted back to fishing. The institute director, on the other hand, was discussing the guzheng with Bai Lion. "I think you can play desert." Bai Lion held her chopsticks, her brows and eyes lazy. "I can't practice it. I can't evoke that kind of feeling." Dean Jian didn't understand who Bai Lion was referring to with she. Just offering a cliché. "Look at how high you set the bar for yourself. You're really suited for our ancient Zither faction. Don't you really plan to take over?" Bai Lion remained silent. Across from Dean Jian, Zhao Bingwen simply couldn't hold back. Take over as the leader of the ancient Zither community. How gifted must Bai Lion be? As they spoke, next to Ning Zio, Jiang Fulai also put down his chopsticks, bowed his head, and asked Ning Zio and Tang Ming in a low voice, "Have you guys signed the contract?" The tone always conveyed a casual sense of detachment. "Signed with the physics department," Ning Zio replied. Jiang Fulai nodded slightly, his wrist resting on the glass table, his pale fingertips tapping the table absent-mindedly. The sound wasn't loud, but it made Ning Zio and Tang Ming feel tense. After a long while, Jiang Fulai spoke. "You guys know about Jiang University's Tengfeng class, right?" Tang Ming was not very clear, but Ning Zio, having been in the provincial team, had heard of it. Smart as he was, as soon as Jiang Fulai mentioned it, he understood the young master's meaning. "Jiang brother, are you saying?" Although it was summer vacation, Tang Ming and Ning Zio hadn't stopped doing practice problems. While Bai Lion was soaking up in the library in Jiangjing, the two had already climbed the overall ranking ladder in Xiancheng. For them, doing practice problems had become the norm. Saijing Club was a lively place, and Su Nanjing had wanted to invite more people to warm up the scene, but Jiang Fulai said the Jai family didn't like it too rowdy, so Su Nanjing didn't invite anyone, not even Gao Yan. only bringing her gift. During a lull in the excitement, Xiao Bingwen quietly left and with the manager rolled the cake inside. A 4-layer cake. It was adorned with delicate, lifelike thin rose petals as well. The lights were turned off, leaving only the candlelight from the cake shining. Bai Lion stood in front of the cake, the candlelight blurring her features as she looked at the cake, with the voices of Pu Ziohan and Tang Ming among others in her ears. Jiang Fulai was opposite her, silently watching her through the flame. Since she came to Xiancheng, met Jianghe, lived on Purist Street, then changed her household registration, staying in class 15. After coming to Xiancheng, all these people were still around her, not one less except for Zhang Shai's. Everything felt like glimpsing flowers on horseback. Meanwhile, downstairs, Assistant Yun parked the car, turning to look at Ma Institute in the back seat. Ma Institute, is this the place? As he asked, Assistant Yun looked at Saijing Club's level 9 staircase. Although he enjoyed accompanying Ma Institute in academic lectures for coffee breaks, he had never seen such a scene. Always in Chang'an District, but with the recent turmoil in Yunxiao District, Assistant Yun had also heard about it. Ma Institute had just finished being busy, used to leaving the Research Institute at 11 or 12 in the evening as a routine. He also left the Research Institute early today. This is the place. Ma Institute's gaze lingered on Saijing Club's building, then lowered to the address Jiang Fulai gave him, confirming it before telling Assistant Yun, "Wait for me here, I'll just deliver something and be right back." He picked up the slightly old-fashioned black notebook and a USB drive placed beside him and got out of the car. Part 2, 1 from the driver's seat, Assistant Yun watched as Academician Ma ascended the splendid golden steps. His gaze indeed fell on the notebook that Academician Ma carried in his hand. He had been following closely as an assistant professor, alongside Academician Ma for quite some time. Academician Ma always carried that notebook with him, and although the assistant professor didn't know what the USB drive was, the notebook must represent the culmination of Academician Ma's work to date. Although the code numbers used were excessive, there was no doubt they were of a confidential level. At the entrance, the manager respectfully assisted the elderly man upstairs. As he turned, he seemed to catch a glimpse of infrared light on the steps. He paused momentarily, looked again, but it had disappeared. Today, the Saijing Club was very quiet. The top floor. When Academician Ma arrived, Bai Lion had just blown out the candles, and Pu Ziohan had turned on the main lights. Since Academician Ma couldn't stay long, he didn't go inside. He looked at the people in the room, his gaze sweeping past Jiang Fulai and Su Nanjing, waiting at the door for Bai Lion to come out. Xiao Bingwen was quietly discussing with Su Nanjing why Director Chen was so respectful towards that blonde. Before they could finish their discussion, the manager opened the door again. "Miss Bai, is there another guest yet to arrive?" Xiao Bingwen asked as he turned his head, only to see Academician Ma standing outside the door, his hair as unkempt as ever, holding a notebook in his hand. Academician Ma, an international authority on quantum physics. Laboratories abroad had violated countless regulations for him, yet they couldn't persuade him to join them. A living fossil of the physics department. Xiao Bingwen had only seen him at lectures or in university physics textbooks. Now here he was at Saijing. Xiao Bingwen blinked. By his side, Su Nanjing, who had met Shun Yu, was more composed than Xiao Bingwen, though her inner questions were mounting, involving President Jian Zhongyu and Dean Shu. And now Academician Ma had shown up. Bai Lion was equally surprised. Academician Ma was typically unconcerned with worldly affairs. His circle was simple, consisting only of physics, with no regard for other social interactions. What was he doing here? She glanced at Jiang Fulai, who stood up first. Bai Lion then murmured to Jai Heng that she would go out with Jiang Fulai. "Academician Ma," Bai Lion approached the entrance. "Why have you come?" Jiang Fulai lazily followed behind Bai Lion. Academician Ma hadn't intended to come, but Jiang Fulai had mentioned that this year was particularly significant for her. "I heard it's your birthday," Academician Ma said, observing the quiet surroundings, free from any disturbance. "This place is quite suitable for reading and research." Bai Lion looked around. Normally, it wouldn't be so quiet here. Have you read through the algorithms? Academician Ma didn't dwell on the environment. He routinely asked Bai Lion a few questions, which she answered one by one, each with her own insights. It was evident that she had studied them seriously after returning. Such top-tier geniuses were too rare in the country. Academician Ma had finally found one, entirely to his liking, who had not yet plunged headlong into the abyss of dark matter like Jiang Fulai had. He looked at Bai Lion as if seeing the near future, his voice becoming gentler. These are some insights I've had since I started in this field, as well as the USB drive. It contains data I've stored. Take your time to go through it during your university days. Academician Ma handed over the notebook and USB drive to Bai Lion. This! Bai Lion lowered her eyelashes, looking at the notebook and USB drive. Take them with confidence, Academician Ma said, looking at her and clearing his throat. If this year is your starting point, then I hope you will carry our dreams to the mountaintop, and you will find the answers along the way. The corridor lighting in the club was not bright. Bai Lion looked at Academician Ma, whose eyes were cloudy yet warm. She had realized at their first meeting that Academician Ma was not in the best of health, but when she was about to leave Jiangjing, Academician Ma still came to see her off. Thank you, sir. Bai Lion accepted the notebook. Always holding her teachers in high esteem, she observed the traditional respect for mentors. Academician Ma was not interested in social gatherings, so Jiang Fulai and Bai Lion accompanied him downstairs. Downstairs, Assistant Yun watched as Academician Ma came down in less than 10 minutes, accompanied by 2 others. Assistant Yun observed the girl with her hair loosely coiled up. He had not yet had time to be surprised that the Academician had come to see Bai Lion. His gaze then fell on the man with a straight posture beside her, a man who looked down, his face indiscernible against the club's entrance light, revealing only sharp jawlines. His entire presence was noble and cold, like the distant moon hanging high in the clear night sky, aloof from the world. Such a cold aura, the assistant have only seen it in one other person. He stepped out of the car, opened the door for Academician Ma, looked up, and sure enough, he saw those pale, faint eyes. Young Master Jiang. Assistant Yun respectfully greeted. After Assistant Yun drove off, he glanced in the rearview mirror. Jiang Fulai followed behind the young lady entering the club, speaking to her in a low voice. He saw clearly that in Bai Lion's hand was the notebook of Academician Ma. Don't spread the word about today's events. Academician Ma closed his eyes in the back seat. After seeing off Academician Ma, Bai Lion headed upstairs. Jiang Fulai walked on her left, his hand casually in his pocket, and the waiter was standing at the elevator, pressing the button as the two approached. They reached the top floor. Jiang Fulai turned his head to look at Bai Lion. Want to go check out the terrace? At that time, it wasn't hot outside. The terrace was large, decorated with fresh flowers all around. Standing on the terrace of the Saijing Club, one could overlook the street bars and night market below. Bai Lion, with the notebook in her left hand, walked to the railing and leaned on it with one hand, gazing at the lights of thousands of homes below, while the flower pot beside her bloomed with pink roses. She used to enjoy standing on the city wall, watching the sunset, the moon, and the stars. Back then, there were stars all over the sky. Below the terrace, a green lawn was laid out with a few wooden tables and gazebos scattered about, adorned with lights on all sides. Jiang Fulai glanced at her for a while. Then he lowered his gaze and covered her right hand with his. Jiang Fulai's palm was always cool, like a gentle stream flowing down slowly from a snowy mountain in summer. The rose beside them shuddered in the wind, casting a quivering shadow over their hands. With his lashes lowered, Jiang Fulai then spread open Bai Lion's fingers and placed a long wooden box that he had concealed for a long time into her palm. Looking up, the surrounding light shattered in his pale eyes, turning into a sky full of stars. He seemed quite casual. A gift. Bai Lion gazed into his eyes and gave a leisurely smile. What is it? Jiang Fulai let go of her hand, a fine laugh in his eyes. He rarely looked so gentle, and at this moment he appeared more strikingly graceful than even the vibrant roses around. Take a look. Inside the box was a white jade hairpin, its texture fine and translucent. Under the subtle lighting, it seemed to be enveloped in a fluorescent glow, with a poppy carved into the tail of the pin. Meanwhile, back in the private room, why hasn't Sister Lion come back? Pu Ziohan handed a piece of cake to Su Nanjing. Have some cake. Su Nanjing held the cake but didn't eat it, his gaze fixed on the door. Why did Academician Ma come looking for alien? Pu Ziohan didn't recognize Academician Ma, but Ning Zio and Tang Ming had already guessed something. Back at the Boyuan base, when Academician Ma suddenly attended a lecture, and afterward Bai Lion took them to another seminar. Pu Ziohan spoke. Maybe he's asking her what she'll study in the future. I heard before that Dean Shu also wanted to ask Sister Lion if she'd like to go to the Chinese department. Pu Ziohan then cut another piece of cake for Zio Bingwen. Bai Lion's classmates all seemed casual about people coming to look for her and didn't seem to make much of it. Zio Bingwen held his fork and didn't eat, but inquired subconsciously. That was Academician Ma. Do you guys know what he does? Ning Zio looked at the problems on his phone without looking at Zio Bingwen. Tang Ming patiently explained to Zio Bingwen, I know Academician Ma. I attended his lecture last year and even bought his book on condensed matter, though I haven't really understood it yet. The use of professional terms made it clear they knew of Academician Ma's reputation. So why were they still so unperturbed? Su Nanjing, hearing that he had attended Academician Ma's lecture, suddenly looked up. Which university did you apply to? Jiang University. Tang Ming scratched his head, somewhat embarrassed. I didn't do as well as Sister Lion and Ning Zio, only just meeting the physics department's requirements. Jiang University was known for its physics department, the pinnacle within the country, with the department ranking high amongst global institutions. The score required was outrageously high, with most students being admitted through competitions. Su Nanjing had only managed to get into Jiang University's economics department with the help of Jiang Fulai's tutoring. Seeing Tang Ming's bashful face, Zio Bingwen thought they were all students from Xiangcheng like Pu Ziohan, who had only managed to get into universities in Jiangxing. How could they all be in Jiang University, and moreover in the physics department? Since when had the Jiang University physics department become so commonplace? Zio Bingwen glanced at Tang Ming's youthful face, suddenly realizing that Bai Lion, his classmate, also became unfathomable. Su Nanjing caught on to something. He was aware of Bai Lion's ranking on the Jiangjing app last time, which was basically the same as the National College Entrance Exam ranking. Add to that his involvement in auctions and mineral matters, which had him flying abroad for several months, only finishing in early July. He hadn't paid much attention to the college entrance exam results. Finally catching on, Su Nanjing put down the small cake. Wait, how much did Alien score in the college entrance exam? Her! Pu Ziohan casually sat down at the table, picked up a video camera beside her, and started reviewing footage. 750, a perfect score and the national top scorer. Go search the news in Baikeng and Xiangcheng. Back then, even the Baikeng Education Bureau couldn't keep it under wraps. It was all over the place. Such is the grandeur of a national top scorer. Tusk. Having witnessed such a scene, Pu Ziohan wasn't surprised by anyone who came looking for Bai Lion. Update 1 this year, even with the screening system in place, the topic of the top scorer in the college entrance exam still caused quite a stir. But Su Nanjing and his peers naturally wouldn't pay much attention. He only found out about Bai Lion's news through Pu Ziohan's social media updates. As for the rest, he didn't know much, and he hadn't participated in the college entrance exam betting pools either. The Su family focuses on nurturing well-rounded individuals. Su Nanjing had hated it since he was a child when the Su family compared his grades to Su Jin's or Su Jin's. When he grew up, he also refused to become that kind of detestable parent. It was only now that he'd heard about Bai Lion being the college entrance exam top scorer from Pu Ziohan. Although there is a top scorer every year, there's only one, and they are all extremely talented individuals. As Su Nanjing had grown up, there had only been one top scorer around him, Jiang Fulai. That year, Jiang Fulai took the college entrance exam directly in his first year of high school, and Jiang Ziju became second on the list. The Chen family should be more concerned about this year's college entrance exam because there was a Liang Wuyu whom even Su Nanjing had heard of. The Chen family had invested a lot of efforts in promoting him. Now, alien, a perfect score college entrance exam top scorer. Su Nanjing's understanding of Bai Lion was still stuck at her being ranked 199th. Then everything made sense. That's why, when he went to the police station to find Bai Lion that night, Principal Shi rushed over in such a hurry. That's why even Elder Su said the commotion was big. Su Nanjing only thought back then that Jiang Fulai had gone too far. And since the Chen family was involved in politics, the Su family had collaborations with them. It wasn't until recently that he learned that almost everyone in Yunxiao district had been replaced. Although Jiang Fulai was the catalyst, he probably only wanted to clean up those bars and clubs. As for those who were purged, they must have been related to Bai Lion. The patio. Bai Lion sat in the pavilion, her hands crossed in front of her chest in a leisurely posture. Her hair was loose behind her back, the strands lustrous and fine, having grown to her waist over the past year. A light breeze stirred her skirt and long hair. Jiang Fulai meticulously arranged her hair, the raven strands slipping through his long, pale fingers. "Can you actually manage?" Bai Lion asked languidly. The cool light around the patio danced across her face, creating a hazy interplay of shadow and light. "Stay still!" Jiang Fulai calmly wound the hair he held around his finger. He was always serene, his voice even-tempered as he spoke while coiling her hair. "Tomorrow I need to join the group, which might take most of the month." Such research had confidentiality agreements in place from the beginning. "Most of the month," Bai Lion spoke. "When you come back, I should have started school." Jiang University registration starts on the 29th of August. Bai Lion had a lot of hair, and Jiang Fulai wrapped it into a half-updo, making the white jade hairpin in his hand appear even more pristine and immaculate, untouched by any speck of dust. His skill was not very polished, and he dabbed at some stray hairs on the side. This time the result was much better than before, not so untidy. Not particularly striking, but very neat. At the end of the white jade hairpin, the craftsmanship of the peony was quite pronounced, yet it seemed just right amidst her locks. Jiang Fulai stepped back, thinking the improvement from last time was substantial. Slowly, he responded to Bai Lion's remark. "There, most of the time signals are jammed. I'll be going with Director Ma from the Institute." He chose some aspects he could safely share with Bai Lion. "Jiangjing," Jiang Fulai recalled the incident at the bar last time. After a pause, he advised, "Try to avoid fights if possible. If something happens, tell Su Nanjing right away. I've already discussed it with your grandfather. He lives on the first floor." Jiang Fulai had been renovating the first floor for quite a while. He preferred quiet and wasn't used to sharing elevators with others. Before coming here, he bought all the units from the first to third floors of the apartment building. Of course, he hadn't mentioned this to Bai Lion, but after realizing that the fourth and fifth floor units belonged to Su Nanjing and Ning Zio, he didn't pursue them. Otherwise, without his consent, neither of them would have been able to get those units. During that time in Xiancheng, Jiang He always stayed with Jai Heng. And Jai Heng, Jiang Fulai couldn't see what he was lacking. He had seen those 2 thin pages of residence registration, and after some consideration, decided to incorporate decorations Jai Heng was familiar with on the first floor. "The first floor?" Bai Lion's radar went off. She had seen the renovations on the first floor. As she listened to Jiang Fulai, she lifted her head. "You bought the first floor?" Things looked set to head in an unpredictable direction. Jiang Fulai smoothed down a stray strand of her hair lifted by the wind and subtly changed the subject. "I've given Ning Zio the Tengfeng class exam questions from each year. I worked out the solutions for most of them. If they find something they don't understand, you explain it to them." Bai Lion aimed to get into the Tengfeng class. She naturally hoped others could also make it. Yang Lin's ambition lay in biology, not within the class range. She considered Ning Zio, but she was a bit worried about Tang Ming. Bai Lion wanted to say something more when her phone on the side moved. Su Nanjing had sent her a bunch of exclamation marks and shocked pig emojis. Realizing she had spent quite some time outside, Bai Lion smoothed out her sleeve and stood up, glancing at Jiang Fulai. Let's go inside first. She walked ahead, while Jiang Fulai habitually stayed a step behind her. Jingjing watched her indifferent figure walking ahead. She gifted him with jade, and he returned her favor with a jade hairpin. Inside the private room, when Bai Lion returned, Chief Chen was drinking with Dean Jai Hengjian. That was someone from the Academy of Sciences. Chief Chen was talking about academician Ma with Jai Heng, aware of the commotion Bai Lion had caused. Is Miss Bai being booked by them? Chief Chen was also a native of Jiangjing, and although he had taken the military official path, he still understood a thing or two. With her talent so high, she should be turned over to the country. Jai Heng held his glass, pouring himself another round and also filling up those for Dean Jai and Chief Chen. It's only right. When he said it was only right, there was always some sort of melancholy in his tone. Pride mixed with an inexplicable sense of solitude. Chief Chen nodded, raising his glass to speak with Jai Heng. Miss Bai, this is just the beginning. As he spoke, he glanced toward Jai Shaojun, whose expression seemed a bit off. Brother Jai? Jai Shaojun snapped back to reality. It's nothing. He picked up his chopsticks and said slowly, Alien will probably come back often, look at Xiaojiang to know. As they were talking on this side. Meanwhile, Xiao Bingwen and Su Nanjing were still motionlessly staring at Bai Lion. Sister Ji said you were the top scorer of the college entrance exam. Yeah. Bai Lion casually sat next to Pu Ziohen and asked Ning Xiao about the exam questions. Su Nanjing opened his mouth. Why didn't you ever mention this? Why mention such things? Bai Lion leaned back and looked up slightly, those deep black eyes making Su Nanjing's words come to a halt. To her, it seemed that scoring full marks on the college entrance exam was no more than an ordinary event, just one goal in her path through life, so there was no need to bring it up. Su Nanjing fell silent, thinking that if his mother knew she was the top exam scorer, she would definitely hold a grand banquet at Jiangjing University. Despite how long the Su family had been around, the family shrine only had one top scholar from hundreds of years ago. Bai Lion tapped on the table and looked at Ning Xiao and Tang Ming. Have you guys roughly reviewed the questions? Ning Xiao raised his head to answer. I've skimmed through them. The overall difficulty is all right. He and Tang Ming had already huddled together to discuss the questions. Bai Lion occasionally chimed in with a few words, while Jiang Fulai quietly leaned on the armrest beside her, occasionally lowering his head to glance coolly at Ning Xiao's test. Pu Ziohen was beside her, looking at the footage from the camera. Yellow Hair and Hong Mao couldn't understand, so the two took out a board game to play Gamoku, and after losing, Hong Mao would bring Jiang He over to command his moves, occasionally asking Bai Lion to help him with a move. Bai Lion leaned against the sofa, her white dress spread out beside her, fiddling with a chess piece in her hand. From 3 meters away, she casually flicked it onto the chessboard. The piece landed precisely where it was meant to. Her features were delicate, and the word beautiful seemed too generic to describe her. There was a casual yet composed elegance about her as she made her directives. Pu Ziohen would occasionally turn her head to show Bai Lion the footage on the camera. Jiang Fulai only exchanged a few words with Ning Xiao and Bai Lion. Among them, even Pu Ziohen, who had the lowest grades, was from Media University. As for Ning Xiao, she was even more outstanding than those from the attached high school, not to mention Bai Lion. Over the past 2 years, Liang Wuyu, who had garnered much attention, was merely a stepping stone for her. Xiao Bingwen realized why Su Nanjing hadn't asked him to invite the young masters and misses from his circle to liven up the scene. The circle of these young people was far more fascinating than theirs. This group of young people was vibrant, full of high spirits. Xiao Bingwen couldn't help but exhale deeply. Nanjing, Xiao Bingwen said, looking at Bai Lion in the midst of the crowd. I always feel that these few people aren't so simple. Jiangjing always said it was hard to get into Su Nanjing and Jiang Ziju's circle. Now, looking at them, he felt that the truly hard-to-reach circle in the future would be Bai Lion's. It's not just them. Su Nanjing was more familiar with Bai Lion than Xiao Bingwen. Recalling Pu Ziohen's words, he said, there should be a few more people, probably Sister Lu, whom I haven't seen, plus another good guy. I've only heard of him. Good guy? It was the first time Xiao Bingwen had heard of this. He was squatting in Xiancheng prison in his senior year. Su Nanjing lit a cigarette, glancing at Zhao Bingwen. Kai Lu personally fought the case, and he was still sentenced to a year. During that time, Jiang brother kept tutoring him personally. He was truly a tough guy. Until now, Su Nanjing still didn't know what that good guy was called. Su Nanjing pressed down the lighter, blew a smoke ring, and his peach blossom eyes slightly squinted. Pu Ziohen had just mentioned that 4 people got into Jiang University, and one of them was Yang Lin. In a situation where she was losing a lot of blood, she managed to calmly lay out the scene. Yang Lin, who had the resolve to take her father's life with a knife. Su Nanjing didn't know what drove her, but the resilience of someone who broke free from such a family was just like that good guy. Listening to this, Jiang Fulai personally going to prison for tutoring, and Kai Yundai, the top legal team in Asia's legal circle. He tapped his knee, his gaze fixed on Bai Lion and the others. Jiangjing Shore had become lively. 8.29. The day Jiangjing University freshmen reported for enrollment. Shanghai apartment, 1st floor. Jai Heng was watering the succulents and cabbage with one hand and holding his phone in the other, talking to Jai Sheijun. No rush, I live right by Jiangda. There's plenty of time to get there. On the other end of the phone, Jai Sheijun hung up. He grabbed his package and was about to leave. Shen Qing rarely stayed here anymore, often going to Bai Lion's place instead. He opened the door to see the building's butler and Zioji. It was Sunday, a day off, and the butler knew Jai Sheijun was always disciplined, so he came to discuss banquet arrangements. Seeing him with the package, the butler was curious. Where are you heading? Let us drive you there. Second update, one rest day. Jai Sheijun didn't expect the butler to show up unannounced. Seeing him at the door, he was taken aback. Today is Alien's school opening, and I'm going to take her to school. When it came to Bai Lion, the Jai family always took care of the smallest details. In the past, the Jai family didn't have such a strong atmosphere, and Jai Heng would always be alone, secluded on Purist Street. For the entire Jai family, everything used to be cold and detached. Jai Sheijun would then take his drawing board and go teach his students. Jai Sheorong seldom returned home, and Ren Wangshuan didn't get along with the entire Jai family. Bai Lion seemed like a gift from heaven, linking the 2 cold families together. Even Jai Heng began to show some liveliness, with a group of children hopping around his yard all day. People in Xiancheng always believed that no matter how far their children flew away, the wind of Xiancheng would always protect them. What a coincidence, Bai Lion also had the surname Bai. The butler glanced at Jai Sheijun, knowing he always placed great importance on his niece Bai Lion. She probably has a lot of stuff for school, right? Let Zioji take you guys to school in the business car we have prepared. Also, Miss has mentioned to you, she wants to invite the old man and Miss Bai for a meal first. Jai Heng had been living in Shanghai apartment ever since he came. The butler only found out a few days ago that Jai Heng had arrived in Jiangjing. I'll go by myself, Jai Sheijun thought for a moment. Today being the opening of Jiang University, Zior Avenue was definitely going to be jammed. Taking the car wouldn't be as smooth as the subway. I'll take the subway. The subway in Jiangjing was always crowded. Zioji took Jai Sheijun to the subway station. He looked across to the other subway entrance, hesitated, and asked, Are you sure you don't want me to take you? No need. Jai Sheijun looked down at the time on his phone, nodded to the butler, and then walked directly to the opposite subway. This place was still some distance from Jiang University. As they got closer to the university town, the subway was full of people, most of them happily taking their kids to report to the school, as the enrollment times of the major universities were quite aligned. When Jai Sheijun got off at the Jiang University station, there was even a reception set up by Jiang University in the subway station itself, guiding the new students to Jiang University. It was Jai Sheijun's first time feeling such a bustling atmosphere. He exited the subway station and saw Zior Avenue teeming with traffic. He then walked with a light step towards Shanghai apartment under the bright sunshine. Shanghai apartment, 303. In Bai Lion's room, Shen Qing circled around her suitcase asking, Is this all you're bringing? Are you taking your piano with you? even when in Xiancheng, Bai Lion didn't live on campus. Now, even though she had rented a house off campus, she still had to abide by the residential rules. Shen Qing was helping her pack and always felt she wasn't bringing enough. Bai Lion leaned lazily against the windowsill, with the curtains drawn back and the window cracked open to let in the strong light. "It's just registration. I won't bring the piano for now." The light exposed a clear path through the floating dust in the room. She squinted at Shen Qing, counting the items in her suitcase, everything appearing so tranquil. "Okay, then when is he coming back?" Shen Qing paused her packing and looked up at Bai Lion. "Is Xiaojiang not coming back today either?" "I don't know." Bai Lion's gaze fell on the courtyard below. Jai Heng was not quite used to the climate of Jiangjing. His small yard had a wooden-colored umbrella erected, casting a cool shade all around. She watched the umbrella, her eyes not quite focusing on anything tangible. The problems Jiang Fulai and Ning Xiao left for her were not difficult. She had been pushing the two to solve them lately, while also busy with the songs required by the director of the institute and reviewing the thesis notes left by Ma Institute's scholar. She was too busy to be bothered by anything else. However, ever since coming to Jiangjing, Jiang Fulai had been there for all of it. Even back in Xiancheng, he would most often accompany her for a walk through the alleys of Purist Street at night. Sometimes when studying until the wee hours, she would occasionally send him 1 or 2 questions, and he would always respond promptly. But for the past half a month, he and He Wen seemed to have disappeared into thin air, only showing up online at specific times to reply to messages. Long ago, she had weathered through the trials of Abai Hell alone, braved countless troubles on her own. As she was pondering, Jai Shaojun appeared in her field of vision, carrying a small bag. Bai Lion snapped back to reality, turned to Shen Qing, and smiled languidly. "Uncle is here." Shen Qing went downstairs to call for Jai Shaojun. Bai Lion picked up her phone on the side, unlocked it slowly, and opened WeChat. In the WeChat group for Class 15, the chat was lively, with Lu Lingxi also talking with everyone in the group. Bai Lion tapped on the 2 conversation boxes at the top, opening one of them. Her last conversation with Jiang Fulai was on the 20th. Second update. 2. She took a photo of the vegetables downstairs, which were growing splendidly in the pleasant sunshine, sent it over, and slowly typed a few words: "Schools starting at the end of summer, with clouds drifting and sunlight filtering through. The scene outside the window reflects the feelings in my heart, wondering if you are well. Room 303's hall." Ning Xiao had already packed his suitcase. Tang Ming's parents had arrived a couple of days ago, staying at a nearby guest house, and were taking Tang Ming to school today. Since nobody was sending Ning Xiao, he was going with Bai Lion. Pu Xiaohan's school would start in a couple of days, and her parents had already arrived, currently touring around Jiangjing. At the moment, she was holding a camera, planning to walk into the school with Bai Lion and shoot along the way. Ning Xiao didn't bring much. He planned to get his bedding from the administrative office. He intended to buy the rest of his stuff at the school's convenience store. Shen Qing had prepared a lot of things for Bai Lion, daily necessities that she had bought a few days prior, confident that with many people around, it wouldn't matter if the items were numerous and heavy. Today was the first day of registration, and many cars were already parked at the entrance of Jiang University. Fearing the crowd might grow even larger if they waited any longer, Shen Qing and Jai Heng took Bai Lion to register ahead of the rest. Although they lived right next to Jiang University, they insisted on sending her off to school with such fanfare. Bai Lion happily went along with Shen Qing and Jai Heng's mood. At the entrance of Jiang University, the Tang family had already arrived. Tang Ming, wearing a duckbill cap, excitedly waved from a distance upon seeing Bai Lion. "Lion Jai, scholar this way." But before he could finish, he saw that behind Bai Lion, Ming Dingheng was coolly carrying her biggest black suitcase, which was heavy with some of Bai Lion's books inside. Bai Lion and her group with Shen Qing seemed close, but Ming Dingheng, the tough and cold-looking guy, kept others at a distance. When Tang Ming saw Ming Dingheng, he dropped his hand and stopped waving. "What's gotten into you now?" Having greeted Tang Ming's family, Pu Ziohan noticed Tang Ming's extremely solemn expression. After greeting Bai Lion and Pu Ziohen, Tang Ming's mother pinched Pu Ziohen's face, and upon hearing this, she glanced at Tang Ming. "Ziohen, don't bother with him. He's always so unnecessary." The group made a grand entrance into the campus. This immediately drew attention. The appearance and demeanor of this group were remarkable, especially Bai Lion, who was wearing a new biwei long dress made by Jai Heng today. With three-quarter sleeves, her delicate wrists peeked out. The sunlight fell on her bright green dress, dazzlingly bright. Green was a color that didn't suit everyone, but it seemed exceptionally appropriate on her, enhancing her fair complexion, and her long lashes lazily drooped. This kind of flashy yet restrained beauty was a showstopper. Not only the reception desks of various departments, but even the freshmen and their parents couldn't help but turn their gaze toward her. They quietly discussed among themselves, wondering if she was some celebrity, with a big guy in a black t-shirt standing behind her. Although he was wearing sunglasses, it was apparent he was scanning the people around him. He looked very much like the well-trained bodyguards often seen on television. For a moment, nobody dared to approach. Bai Lion and the three were of the same major, and Tang Ming, looking at the bustling scene of new students that resembled a market, quickly found the physics department among a bunch of signs and hurried over. Over there. A second before, the people at the physics department were wondering if this girl was a newly signed star, but the next, they saw her heading their way. The crew-cut boy looked at Tang Ming, Ning Zio, and Bai Lion, mouth agape. "You, all of you are from the physics department." "Yeah," Tang Ming replied with a smile. The crew-cut boy looked past Tang Ming to Bai Lion, who stood there nonchalantly, and the corners of his mouth instantly sprang up. "Junior, I'm Gu Zioj, sophomore in the physics department and also from the student union's organization department. Come on, I'll take you to our department to register. Do you have any luggage?" Tang Ming. Under the envious gaze of the other physics department members, Gu Zioj led Bai Lion's group to register with the physics department. Behind them, a group of upperclassmen waiting for other new students looked at the retreating figures of Bai Lion and her party, discussing among themselves. "She seems prettier than Sister Ming, doesn't she?" "Get rid of seems. Wait a minute, do you guys think the freshman girl just now looks like that girl who was popular on our school's forum last year?" Someone took out their phone immediately, glanced at it, and said, "It really is her. She actually got into Jiang University and in the physics department." "Physics department? Is she that freaky?" "Freaky. The top scholar in this year's college entrance exam is the real freak, man. Thankfully, I took my exams last year, or else being in the same batch as these folks." The registration area was in the auditorium, which wasn't too crowded at this time, with only a few new students lining up in front of each college's table. Jai Heng and Tang Ming's parents were standing aside waiting, while Jai Shaojun talked to Jai Heng about being invited by Mu Yining for dinner. "Dinner, huh?" Jai Heng considered for a moment before suddenly remembering something. "They don't know Alien is now at Jiang University, do they?" Jai Shaojun nodded. "They don't. If the butler already knew of Bai Lion, would he be this enthusiastic?" Thoughtful, Jai Heng held a bag in his hand containing Bai Lion's backpack. "Tell them tonight." Not far away, Gu Zioj was taking them to the physics department's reporting station and instructed the three new students in advance. "Have your ID cards and admission notices ready." There were two people ahead of them. Gu Zioj talked to the members of the physics department's student union with ease. "These three are from Baikeng, and they all got into our school." He then introduced Bai Lion and Ning Zio to them. "This is our faculty's junior brother Ba, president of our student union. I hope you all can pass the assessment and join the school's student union." "Don't worry, freshman girl." "President Ba," Gu Zioj turned back and asked Ba Shiming, "Is Liang Wuyu also from our department? When you see him later, remember to let us know and to definitely lure him into our student union." "Not yet." President Ba finished registering the previous students' information, took Tang Ming's ID and exam admission ticket, entered Tang Ming's ID and exam admission number into the computer, and double-checked the information. When he saw Tang Ming's college entrance examination score, he looked up at Tang Ming and smiled. "Welcome to your studies." Next was Ning Zio. When Ba Shiming saw Ning Zio's score, he was momentarily stunned. After completing the registration, he initiated a conversation. "Student Ning, add me on WeChat so it's easier to contact me if you need anything." He took out his phone. Ning Zio added him. Seeing him doing this, Gu Zioj couldn't help but glance at Ning Zio. Bai Lion stood at the very end. She didn't have her admission notice and only presented her ID and exam admission ticket. Meanwhile, Gu Zioj was chatting with the sociable Tang Ming. "You guys did well to get into Jiang University this year, little bro, considering there are 2 freaks on top." "Ah," Tang Ming scratched his head. "Really?" Ba Shiming held Bai Lion's ID and exam admission ticket, entering them into the computer. Since there were fewer girls in the physics department, he looked at Bai Lion a bit longer, and noticing that her ID number was from Ziying Cheng just like the 2 guys before her, he hit the enter key. He saw Bai Lion's enrollment score, 750. He always knew that this year's top scholar had surpassed Liang Wuyu. Many thought that Liang Wuyu had made a mistake, and he only learned now that she had beaten him with a perfect score. Ba Shiming couldn't help but look up. Bai Lion raised an eyebrow. She stood in front, leisurely tapping the screen of her phone, her languid gaze falling on him. Ba Shiming was the first to directly feel that pressure of looking down upon others from the summit, from the top scholar with the perfect score, from the elder sister of masters, contempt for all. Shiming remained silent. The senior sitting beside him, waiting for Bai Lion to fill out the form, started to urge, "President, haven't you registered yet? Junior sister, come here and fill out the freshman report first." She had been watching Bai Lion's face, then passed the pen and paper to Bai Lion, with a voice gentle enough to melt water. "Junior sister, come on, fill out this form." Bai Lion expressed her thanks and took the paper and pen. She leaned forward slightly and left her basic information on it. "Junior sister, let's add each other on WeChat first, then you can go to your dorm. Your dorm is in Nanmei District, building number 4, room 407. The senior took out her phone, successfully added Bai Lion on WeChat. "I'm Yi Jinxian, a junior at the main campus. If you need anything, you can come to me." Seeing Yi Jinxian adding Bai Lion on WeChat, Gu Zioj also took out his phone, but just as he had it in his hand, he felt a gaze behind him. Gu Zioj looked up to see the man in the black t-shirt with a stern presence. Even through the sunglasses, he could feel the hostility. Gu Zioj, stunned for a moment, missed the perfect opportunity to make a new friend. After everyone had left, Yi Jinxian picked up the form Bai Lion had filled out. Bai Lion's handwriting was bold and vigorous. The speed and roughness within her strokes had their own character. She could tell that Bai Lion had practiced regular script calligraphy, naturally seeing the power within the lines. "She definitely learned calligraphy. I must get her to join our literature and art department," Yi Jinxian declared with certainty as she looked at the paper. Beside her, Ba Shiming glanced at the computer screen and said softly, "Not necessarily." "What do you mean?" As the next student was about to line up, Ba Shiming pointed to the not-yet-refreshed computer screen for Yi Jinxian to see. "Look who she is." Yi Jinxian leaned over for a look and saw those dazzling entrance exam scores. "Damn, she's joined our college too. How come we haven't heard such big news?" This year, all the freshman girls were housed in the Nanmei district, in dormitories uniformly designed for 4 occupants with bunk beds and desks underneath, separated by sky blue partitions. The entire dormitory was extremely spacious, with a private bathroom. The balcony was quite large too, and had a table and 2 wooden chairs on it. Bai Lion was one of the earliest to arrive. The other people in the dorm had not come yet, so she chose the bed near the balcony on the left side. Shen Qing took a basin to the bathroom to fetch water and wiped down Bai Lion's desk and chair, as well as those belonging to the other residents of the dormitory. Bai Lion arranged the books from her suitcase neatly on her desk. Her belongings were simple: books and clothes. As she didn't plan to stay on campus during the registration period, Bai Lion had not brought her computer. After registration, Bai Lion took Shen Qing and Jai Heng around Jiang University's campus, and Shen Qing took many photos. Tang Ming and Ning Zio also came out of the men's dormitory. More people were coming to register at this time, and the school was filled with students everywhere. The celebrity statue square was especially crowded, swarming with luggage. Bai Lion and Ning Xiao both liked quiet places like the library coffee shop. However, Shen Qing and Tang Ming's parents enjoyed the busy atmosphere. After lunch, having checked out the Jiang University's statue square, the library, the science building, and the teaching buildings, it was already past 4 in the afternoon. Tang Ming's parents had an 8 o'clock flight and left first. By this time, past the peak of new student arrivals, there were still quite a few people at the entrance of Jiang University. Bai Lion stood lazily by the roadside, watching Shen Qing take photos of Jiangjing University's main gate with her phone. Yang Lin's dorm is in Building 5, Pu Ziohan said, watching Tang Ming seeing his parents off, then turned back to speak to Bai Lion. But she went to the neighboring art college today. The art college? Bai Lion tilted her head slightly. She remembered the meticulous painting she had once seen in Yang Lin's biology notebook. Yeah, Pu Ziohan said without thinking much further. Grandfather finished making the clothes. I'm going to find Grandpa Jian later, and I plan to finish shooting this part of the video before school starts. Bai Lion took out her phone, looking down at it. Okay. On her phone, Yan Lu sent a message saying that her new show would finish filming in a week, and after that she'd return to Xiancheng, waiting for Zhang Shi's to get out. Bai Lion tapped on the phone screen with her fingertips. Next to her, Jai Heng lit a cigarette, smiled at Pu Ziohan as he greeted her, then approached Bai Lion and after a moment of thought said, Alien, come have dinner with us tonight. It's the lady who gave you the bag last time. She's treating. It was a unique design, but because it was leather, she had studied it and figured that if she put slightly more books in, it might deform, so she left it unused at Shanghai apartment. She generally preferred the canvas bag Jai Heng had made for her. More could fit in it, and it was less likely to get damaged. The phone rang, and Bai Lion looked down to see it was Director Huang's call. She answered, Director Huang, you came to register today. On the other side of the call, Dean Huang walked to the window, looking down at the new students coming and going below. Today was the new student registration, and as the dean of the physics college, he was naturally in attendance. Upon arriving at the university, he overheard some professors discussing Liang Wuyu and Bai Lion. Upon further inspection, Bai Lion had chosen their physics college. That's right, the sooner the better, Bai Lion said to Shen Qing, who was still taking photos, as she casually leaned against the nearby railing, her green dress trailing on the ground. Jai Shaojun also had the day off and just happened to have time, so Jai Heng decided to drop Bai Lion off for registration first. How are you preparing for the Tongfeng class exams? Dean Huang remembered to ask. Bai Lion's leg was casually propped up, and upon hearing this, she laughed lazily. It's going okay. The okay uttered by a top student was generally not to be taken at face value. Upon hearing her tone, Dean Huang roughly knew what that meant. He nodded, his tone much warmer. Then that's good. The teacher will be back in a few days, and if you encounter any issues, just give me a call. Of course, the teacher he referred to was Academician Ma. Sure, Bai Lion looked up at the sky and replied indifferently. On the other end of the phone, inside Dean Huang's office, the two professors listened to Dean Huang's tone and exchanged glances. Once Dean Huang hung up the phone, the laboratory professor finally spoke up. Dean Huang, were you talking to Academician Zhou on the phone? Academician Zhou was from the aerospace department and was also one of the first students led by Academician Ma, the eldest apprentice in Academician Ma's lineage. At 47, he was the youngest academician. After all, since Dean Huang called Academician Ma teacher on the phone along with the other party, they guessed it was somebody from Dean Huang's own circle. Upon hearing this, Dean Huang did not reply, but just shook his head to them and rarely cracked a smile. No, that was not Academician Zhou, but rather their future junior sister. Mu Yinning's office. She was wearing a black professional suit, tilting her head slightly while looking at her assistant beside her. Are you sure it's Mr. Chen? The documents just came out this morning. The assistant closed the file. It's confirmed that he's the top man in Yongxiao district. This is really... Mu Yinning looked downstairs, lost in thought. A batch of replacements had just been made from top to bottom in Yunxiao district, causing a disconnection in the networking web among the inner circle. Just when Yunxiao district's new leading official had been assigned a year ago, the circle had become impeccably clean. The economic lifelines and policies were all firmly in their grasp. But indeed, it wasn't an easy circle to mingle in. "It's not just us hitting a wall." The assistant looked at Mu Yinning's furrowed brow and spoke up. "Most have hit a wall, all except for one family." Mu Yinning turned her head. "Are you talking about that Su family?" "Yes." Mu Yinning looked downstairs and fell silent. The assistant flipped through the schedule and continued to report to her. "Mu, I couldn't book the Kangyu Tower, so I booked the Yu private room at Kingston Building, 7 o'clock this evening." Jai Heng was one of Mu Yinning's elders. Mu Yinning had met Jai Heng when she was old enough to remember, and she had an impression of him as a very capable person. However, after he went on to separate from the Mu family, there were no more news from him. Knowing that Jai Heng was coming to Jiangjing, Mu Yinning would naturally treat him with high standards. Kangyu Tower was difficult to book, and getting a reservation at Kingston Building during this time frame was already quite good. Mu Yinning raised her wrist, looking down at the time on her watch, decisively. "Assistant Wang, you go pick them up first. I'll drive over myself in a bit." Assistant Wang had Jai Shaojun's WeChat and inquired for their address. Jai Shaojun sent a location directly. Assistant Wang got into the driver's seat, checked the location on his phone, and saw it was Jiangjing University. Jai Shaojun had told him that he was taking his niece to register today. Ren Wangshuan's records had been collected by him. Her achievements were decent, but weren't considered among the top talents. It was said that one looks to Jiangjing University for domestic talent, but within Jiang University, one looks to Class 3 for exceptional talent. Not to mention Ren Wangshuan, even Mu Zhao was not among the top talents. After meeting Ren Wangshuan, they hardly had any expectations for the other girl. The entrance of Jiang University wasn't as congested as before, but there were still plenty of taxis. Assistant Wang drove the car to the university gates, his gaze fixed on Jai Heng and the others who had just emerged from the entrance, as he thought absent-mindedly. He and the Mu family butler had always known that Miss Bai had been admitted to Jiangjing, but had never asked which school she was at. So it turned out, she was at Jiang University. University's entrance. Jai Shaojun had ridden in Assistant Wang's car before, so he recognized the license plate and turned to Mingding Heng. "Xiaming, someone has come to pick us up. You don't need to give a ride." Mingding Heng nodded, standing aside without leaving, his gaze piercing through his sunglasses to look at Assistant Wang's license plate. Assistant Wang got out from the driver's seat. He walked over to the other side, his eyes watching Jai Shaojun and his group. He had met both Jai Shaojun and Shen Qing before, his eyes settling on the girl standing next to Shen Qing. The summer sun sets late, so at that time the light was not harsh, with the entire sun appearing as if veiled in a layer of soft mist, the cool, golden rays slanting onto her, her emerald dress fluttering with the wind. Her brows and eyes were lazy yet unbridled. It was the pride of her blooming age, yet also a rare composure in pointing out the hills and rivers of this age. Such bearing of a great general. Assistant Wang stood still, his gaze upon Bai Lion, almost losing his voice as he watched her. "Assistant Wang," Jai Shaojun approached, introducing Jai Heng to him. "This is my dad." Assistant Wang finally snapped back to reality, his gaze shifting from Bai Lion and greeting Jai Heng. "Honored elder, hello, I am Assistant Manager Mu's assistant. You can just call me Zio Wang." His gaze landed on Jai Heng, and to his surprise, he found this Mr. Jai also had an extraordinary bearing. Assistant Wang opened the car door and ushered the large Jai family inside. He took his seat at the wheel and drove onto the main road. Since it wasn't a workday, traffic wasn't as heavy, and he looked in the rearview mirror. Bai Lion sat close to the door and after getting in the car, put on her Bluetooth earpiece. She lowered the window, resting her elbow casually on it. "Miss Bai, which major are you in at Jiang University?" Assistant Wang politely inquired. Shen Qing, looking down at the photos they had taken throughout the day, heard and answered for Bai Lion. "Alien has enrolled in the Department of Physics." Jiang University's Department of Physics, one of the 3 premier majors. The car quickly arrived at the Kingson building. Mu Yining had arrived a few minutes early and was waiting for Jai Heng downstairs. Assistant Wang parked the car at the entrance of Kingson building. Seeing Jai Heng in the passenger seat, she promptly opened the door for him. "Uncle, I am Yining." Jai Heng got out of the car, his brows and eyes filled with admiration. "You've grown up so much." Mu Yining pursed her lips and smiled, glancing to the side and pausing when she saw Bai Lion and Shen Qing getting out of the car. After getting out of the car, Bai Lion saw Mu Yining looking over and slightly inclined her body to greet her, her half-tied black hair consequently spilling over her chest. "Hello." Mu Yining had seen Ren Wongshuan. Although cultivated, she still couldn't shake off an air of pettiness in every move she made. In fact, aside from Shen Qing, everyone from the Jai family possessed an extraordinary demeanor. Ren Wongshuan, however, seemed a bit out of place in the Jai family. Mu Yining initially thought that Jai Shaojun's other niece would be similar, but she couldn't find anyone else in Jiangjing who could match Bai Lion's appearance and demeanor. The group arrived at the Rain character private room in Kingson building. The room was difficult to book, and as soon as they entered, the staff served them tea and snacks. Bai Lion obediently sat down next to Shen Qing, having already taken off her earpiece, and started to check the problems on an app on her phone. Mu Yining sat next to Jai Heng, pouring him a cup of tea, reminiscing about some childhood anecdotes, her eyes occasionally drifting towards Bai Lion sitting opposite to her, slightly lost in thought. The knock on the door rang again. Assistant Wang went to open the door and was somewhat surprised. "Manager Pang?" Because Mu Yining often booked the room for important guests, Assistant Wang had a membership card and naturally recognized the manager of Kingson Building. Kingson Building was only second to Kangyu Tower in Jiangjing, favored by political and business elites for booking private rooms. However, Assistant Wang wasn't familiar with the staff at Kingson Building, and neither he nor Mu Yining were at the level to warrant personal reception by the manager, so he was naturally surprised. "Assistant Wang, I've brought some pastries for your private room." Manager Pang allowed the staff behind him to enter, smiling. "These are the pastries we provide complimentary to our Rain character room guests." The pastries from Kingson Building were famous, much like the breakfast at Kangyu Tower. Reservations were usually tough to get, and Assistant Wang watched the staff bring in the pastries, stepping aside. The staff served the pastries to everyone at the table. Bai Lion lowered her head, recognizing it as the same pastry she had extra last time when she and Jiang Fulai had a meal with Gao Yan. She lifted her head, and the manager of Kingson Building gave her a smile. Jai Heng didn't eat much, having spent the time talking to Mu Yining, his brows slightly furrowed. "How has your father been lately?" Update 2. The people of great families have always been very united since ancient times. Back then, there was even the concept of collective punishment, where if one person committed a crime punishable by death, it would implicate 9 generations of the family. Shared glory and shared loss, this notion has been passed down to the present. Jai Heng also greatly admired this half-brother of his and never thought of competing with him, knowing that with Mu Xiangguang there, the Mu family would become even more prosperous. It was only upon returning to Jiangjing that he heard a few words from Jai Shaojun. Having taken a sip of tea, Mu Yining remarked, "You know, he still hasn't gotten over it. That time, my brother didn't want to go with the scientific expedition team. He felt he wasn't experienced enough, but our father pulled some strings and forcefully got them in." Due to his interference, Mu Qiang, whom Mu Xiangguang had been grooming with devotion, died, and since then, he has almost never left the Buddhist temple. Jai Heng was clearly hearing this for the first time as he set down his smoking pipe. Compared to Mu Qiang's death, he himself was the final executioner, and this was the real reason Mu Xiangguang could not forgive himself. The atmosphere grew heavy upon mentioning this. After finishing the meal, Mu Yining escorted Jai Heng and the others downstairs and had her driver take them back to Shanghai apartment. "Be careful on the road." Jai Shaojun and Shen Qing were returning to their place and didn't go back with Jai Heng. Mu Yining called a Kingson Building car to take Jai Shaojun back, and only after everyone had left did she return to her car. Pressing her temples, she asked, "Did Mu Zhao go to school today?" Assistant Wang was driving, and he replied respectfully, "The young master said he'd go on the last day." Mu Zhao was also applying to Jiangjing University, but he was in the economics department. Upon the mention of Jiang University, Assistant Wang drove to the intersection and slowly said, "Mr. Mu, Miss Bai is also at Jiangjing University." "What? She's at Jiang University?" Mu Yining rolled down the window, feeling a bit more alert. She had been observing Bai Lion for a long time that day. Assistant Wang answered, "Yes, Jiang University Physics Department." As a member of the Mu family, who didn't know about the physics department at Jiang University, Mu Qiang used to be in the physics department at Jiang University, participated in a direct Ph.D. program, and joined the scientific expedition team. Listening to the familiar major, Mu Yining stared blankly out the window. She actually got into Jiang University on her own, and it's the physics department of Jiang University. As far as she knew, Bai Lion was also from Xiancheng. Mu Qiang had been receiving the finest education since he was young, but Mu Yining could guess the conditions Bai Lion faced in Xiancheng without having to think about it. "Do you think?" At the red light, Assistant Wang stopped the car. "If the master knows she's in the physics department, will he come out?" Mu Yining pulled herself back from her thoughts. "I don't know. The problem is not just my dad. Look, she has never visited the Mu family either." Mu Yining leaned back in her seat, suddenly looking up. "Does the butler know about this?" She was inquiring whether the butler was aware of this situation. Mu Yining's focus had already shifted towards economics, and she didn't understand the matters of the scientific community. The leading figures of the major research institutions were probably known only to Mu Xiangguang. But without Mu Xiangguang coming out, there was nothing Mu Yining could do. "He probably doesn't know," whispered Assistant Wang. The registration period for Jiang University lasted 3 days, from the 29th to the 31st. On the 31st, in the evening, Bai Lion returned to room 407 with her black computer and a small pot of succulents. The door was ajar, and as she entered, 2 of her roommates were by the desk on the left side of the door, yelling frantically at the computer. "It's not loading. Come on, come on. You're Jiang University's network. How can you be this bad? You're a huge letdown, Jiang University network. I will never choose Jiang University again." The voice was hysterical. The girl wearing a white t-shirt and a ponytail had just finished shouting when she saw a beautiful girl standing at the door, clad in white and black, with pretty yet languid eyes and eyebrows. "Fry, friend. Who are you looking for?" Bai Lion, holding her computer, nodded politely. "Hello, I'm Bai Lion. I arrived on the first day of school." The girl with the ponytail realized this was her roommate. "Ah, hello, my name is Kong Wei," and pointing to the round-faced girl sitting in front of the computer. "Her name is Yu Simon. Both of us are from Zecheng." Yu Simon also turned her head and greeted warmly. "So you are our last mysterious roommate. Add me on WeChat, and I'll pull you into our dorm group." The 3 of them introduced themselves, and Kong Wei touched her nose, trying to save face. "Sorry about earlier. I was competing with Yu Simon for our Idols album. Did we scare you? I'm not usually like this." Bai Lion glanced and saw that Yu Simon's computer was on the page for the Gambling with Liquor album release. Xinji had included all of Yan Lu's songs in the Gambling with Liquor album, contending for the Chinese Music Awards, so she also released a collector's edition for the fans. It wasn't expensive, it was just hard to get. "No worries," Bai Lion said to Kong Wei, smiling slightly with a casual look in her eyes. Zhang Shai's was even more extreme when it came to chasing after stars. Kong Wei stared at her as she smiled at her with a radiant face, and she was somewhat stunned. Bai Lion walked to her desk. The bed opposite hers was made up with curtains around it, but there was no one there. She paused at the desk, thought for a moment, and then lifted her hand to place her computer on the bed. She had transferred the data given to her by academician Ma onto her computer. Although Jiang Fulai had told her that her computer's security was high and there was no need to worry about data leakage, she was still very cautious. She arranged the succulents on the desk, and on the left, Kong Wei finally snapped back to reality. She opened a friend request message, It was from Bai Lion, with a very simple WeChat name, Bai Jian. Ah, are you also a fan of Yan Lu? Kong Wei gripped her phone tightly, suppressing her excitement. Bai Lion slowly pulled out a chair to sit and took a book from the side. Hearing the question, she raised an eyebrow, sort of. Finding a common interest, the distance between them closed instantly. Kong Wei and Yu Simon had competed for 5 minutes. The campus network at Jiang University was so bad that neither could get the album, and they swore not to recommend juniors to apply to Jiang University. The person across from you is Zun Kaiyan, Kong Wei said listlessly, hugging a bag of potato chips and gossiping with Bai Lion. She came yesterday with a butler and bodyguards. She has a butler at her home. The Zun family? Yu Simon pushed her glasses, clearly knowing some people in Jiangjing, and analyzed seriously. It must be that Zun family. Which one? Gossip was Kong Wei's nature. Yu Simon glanced at Bai Lion's book, which was in a foreign language that she did not understand, and continued to reason while touching her chin. There are only so many families in Jiangjing. My maternal grandfather warned me about causing trouble in Jiangjing and mentioned a few things. Generally, families with marital connections to the Su family have royal lineage. By extension, our dorm could also be considered royalty, right? Bai Lion looked down, slowly flipping through the book. She wasn't listening carefully, but when Yu Simon mentioned the Su family, she couldn't help but think of Su Nanjing and his entourage. Outside Jiang University's gates, a car with no logos slowly drove in. The gatekeeper, seeing the license plate, was startled and quickly let it through from afar, wondering to himself why the car was at Jiangjing today. With many people taking walks around Jiang University at that time, and more cars entering and exiting the university during those days, most did not recognize the internal car plates and did not pay much attention. Still, a few were pondering why the character in front of the plate was not Jiang, but Yan. The car avoided the crowd and slowly drove from the west gate toward Nanmei District. When the car stopped, Academician Ma was still on his computer, the fluorescent light reflecting on his face. Without looking up as the car door opened, he asked, "You're not attending the summary meeting?" Jiang Fulai got out of the car, looked towards the street corner, casually putting on a baseball cap, his tone cold. "What's the point if they need me for everything? What use is it to keep them?" Ma tapped on the keyboard, typing out a line of text, and upon hearing the monitor's words, he slowly pushed up his glasses with a hand. "Okay, you are the boss, Jiang. What you say goes." The door behind slowly closed. In the front, the driver looked toward the co-pilot, where Yun assistant was seated, afraid of disturbing Academician Ma. He lowered his voice. "Professor Yun, do we still wait for young Master Jiang?" "No need." Yun assistant gazed at Jiang Fulai's retreating back, a figure as solitary and indifferent as ever. He withdrew his gaze, head straight to the headquarters. Some problems arose with a few people in the project team, leading to a delay. In recent times, the chill emanating from Jiang's body was heavier than that of a ghost, leaving no blade of grass growing wherever he passed. After the car drove away, Yun assistant checked his mobile phone and suddenly remembered something. He glanced at the rear-view mirror. Not everyone knew that Academician Ma was going to teach the Tengfeng class this year, but those with information channels had known about it early on. There shouldn't be many applying for the Boyuan class this year, but the number of students applying for the Tengfeng class is expected to grow exponentially. Upstairs, the few in room 407 were still chatting. "I heard our new freshmen have 2 big shots in the physics department this year, and neither went abroad." Kong Wei, who had just arrived at this legendary top educational institution, couldn't settle down. All 3 of them were not locals, 2 from Zicheng and 1 from Baikang, and they all shared a passion for physics. They felt an immediate closeness, especially with Kong Wei being an active person. As Bai Lion listened to their conversation, she read her book, lazily turning the pages and occasionally responding with a word or two when Kong Wei asked her something. "We are leaving now." Today, he and Jai Mulan had accompanied Su Jiu to the school. Upon arrival, he wanted to meet Bai Lion, but she chose not to see them. Su En didn't insist. He only had Su assistant pass the gift they had brought for Bai Lion to her. Bai Lion, okay. On the other side of the phone, Sue-En picked up the car keys, looking at Jai Mulin beside him, whose belly was now quite large. Alien didn't say she wanted to see us. Jai Mulin fell silent for a moment. She reached out to touch her belly and shook her head. Let's go back. She had anticipated it all. If Sue-En had been alone, Bai Lion would certainly have met with him. Jai Mulin found it harder and harder to read Bai Lion now. After replying with a single word, Bai Lion just put down her phone when another call came through. She glanced at it indifferently. There was no contact name, just a Jiangjing local number. Her fingers, which were about to flip the page, paused on the paper, cold white fingertips resting on the sky-blue tabletop. She hesitated for a few seconds before lifting her head and picking up the phone to answer on the balcony. On the other end of the phone, the voice was as calm as ever, speaking unhurriedly. Have you returned to the dormitory? When Jiang Fulai was busy with engineering work with academician Ma and others, he couldn't make calls, and even for external contact, he needed to use the special mobile phone from that place. You could tell from his voice that he was a bit worn out. Bai Lion leaned casually on the balcony railing, looking down at the flower bed below. Just got back to the dorm. I'm reading about quantum many-body theory. It was related to quantum field theory in condensed matter physics of high-energy particles. Jiang Fulai quietly listened to her speak. School had just started, and many older students were selling second-hand books and trinkets downstairs by the female dormitory, creating a bustling scene at this moment. Through the phone, some noise could be heard. Where are you? Bai Lion heard some raucous noise. He seldom made phone calls from the lab, and even when he sent voice messages, the background was always extremely quiet. Holding the phone, Jiang Fulai's gaze rested on the entrance to the female dormitory, and he inadvertently said, Bai Lion, I'm outside the female dormitory building. Outside the entrance to the female dormitory was a main road flanked by sweetgum trees that formed a dense canopy, with the nearby solar lamps providing dim illumination. Near the entrance, there was a convenience store to the left and an eyeglass shop that was still open. At the moment, down the stairs to the supermarket, many senior students had set up stalls selling second-hand items to junior students. As Bai Lion emerged from the dormitory entrance, she immediately saw a towering figure standing under a sweetgum tree to the right, dressed in black including a newsboy cap, which did little to hide his haughty demeanor. The figure was faintly enshrouded in the cool light from the back, not looking up, yet radiating an intense presence. Students delivering food on campus instinctively stayed away from this direction. He was looking down at his phone, its screen still brightly lit. Seeming to sense someone coming out, he looked up, his gaze precisely finding the person who had just emerged, cutting through the crowd. Dressed in an ivory-colored garment with a slanting collar, the material was soft. Only the cuffs and the hem were embroidered with large patches of green tendrils, making the girl's face look as luminous as jade. Meet at 244, incident occurred at 2, she was the epitome of casual and relaxed. Just walking from the dormitory gate to the corner, she drew the gaze of everyone around her. The not-so-bright street lights cast shaking tree shadows on the ground. The moon hung high above the treetops, so faint it was nearly indiscernible. Did Grandpa make you new clothes? Jiang Fulai asked, eyeing the garment she wore that he hadn't seen before. The clothes had been brought over by Jai Heng from Xiancheng last time. Looking down at the turquoise vine on her dress, Bai Lion replied simply, Before she could finish, Jiang Fulai wrapped his left arm around her waist from behind, his long, strong fingers clasped at her side, drawing her close. Congratulations on the new semester. Have you finished work? Bai Lion touched his slightly cool fingers with her fingertips. Sort of, Jiang Fulai quietly embraced her for a moment before asking, Have you eaten dinner? I had dinner at Grandpa's before coming here. Oh, Jiang Fulai held her hand and went straight to the point. I haven't eaten yet. The girls' dorm in the Nanmei district was closer to the second canteen. At this hour, the privately owned stores on the second floor of the canteen were likely still open. Bai Lion lifted her head. Let's go to the second canteen. Jiang Fulai wasn't picky about food. He would eat the fine dishes selected in Kangyu Tower, as well as the boxed meals distributed in the lab. Bai Lion ordered 2 dishes for him and got a bowl of rice. He brought the food back, sitting in the cafeteria that didn't quite suit his aura. He leisurely took out his phone, snapped a photo of the 2 dishes, and sent it to Academician Ma. "Have you had dinner yet?" Academician Ma, who had just got out of the car, spared a moment to reply with a symbol. When Bai Lion returned with 2 bottles of water, he was still typing at his leisure. Upon seeing her, he put away his phone discreetly and changed the subject. "How are they doing with their studies? How is the exam preparation going?" Jiang Fulai was referring to the 2nd round of admissions for the Tengfeng class. Since leaving the base, he hadn't sent so much as a punctuation mark to Ning Xiao and Tang Ming. Bai Lion twisted the cap on the water bottle, glanced at his phone, placed the water beside him, and casually sat down. "Not bad." "Oh," Jiang Fulai had just been making conversation, asking casually. If those 2 didn't get in, they'd have to face him. Kong Wei was too lazy to go downstairs and asked Bai Lion to bring back a pack of trash bags from the supermarket on the ground floor when she returned. By the time Bai Lion got back to the dorm, the roommate across from her, Zun Kaiyan, had already returned from the library. Zun Kaiyan was tall, with chestnut-colored curly hair, and she seemed a bit distant. "Thanks." Kong Wei took the trash bags, fitted one onto her bin, and remembering the earlier discussion, introduced Bai Lion to Zun Kaiyan. "Bai Lion, this is Zun Kaiyan, a local from Jiangjing who just came back from the library. But Zun Kaiyan, are you really considering the Tengfeng class?" After greeting Zun Kaiyan, Bai Lion messaged Jiang Fulai to tell him she was back in the dorm. Zun Kaiyan, hearing that Bai Lion was from Baikeng, withdrew her gaze. "I'm just giving it a try." Zun Kaiyan picked up her nightgown, nodded slightly to Kong Wei, and pushed the door to enter the bathroom. Not much for conversation. Beauty brings a sense of distance, and it's rare these days to find someone as beautiful and approachable as Bai Lion. After Zun Kaiyan entered the bathroom, Yu Simon spoke to the 2 of them. "The Tengfeng class only tests mathematics and physics. The national team goes a bit more extreme, like a 2nd-round admission test. The Tengfeng class is the real deal. Most of them can get into a lab as first years." Those from the national team were directly specially recruited into the Tengfeng class. The other spots were few and far between. Those who entered Jiang University through the normal college entrance exam had to take a 2nd-round admission test to get in. Bai Lion looked down at her phone, where He Wen, who hadn't shown up for a while, had sent her several documents. She took the laptop from the bed, logged into WeChat, and downloaded the document He Wen had sent her. Kong Wei looked at Bai Lion's laptop with its default background. Aside from a few graphic design programs, there was also a video app. There were no games or other entertainment software icons. Meanwhile, in the residence of Shen Qing and Jai Shaejun had just finished training, and Zioji and others had just left. It was a call from Jai Heng, and his voice was very grave. "Go to the Jiang University-affiliated hospital. Mulan was in a car accident on the road. She's still in the operating room." "What?" Jai Shaejun immediately stood up. If Jai Heng was calling him, there was only one reason. Jai Mulan needed a blood transfusion. Part of the reason he had married Shen Qing was because she also had panda blood. Hearing that Jai Mulan was in the hospital, Shen Qing also grabbed her bag and hurriedly followed Jai Shaejun out. The last time in Xiangcheng, if not for Jai Mulan and Bai Lion, she would have lost her life in an instant. They hurriedly rushed to the hospital. The nurse led Shen Qing away to draw blood and said, "We've already called the person in charge of the panda blood record, but we don't know if anyone will come. You should be prepared, the patient is in great danger." Panda blood was always fearful of any incident. Jai Heng was still able to remain calm at this moment. He looked at the heavily injured Suen. "You go and get your wound treated first." Suen looked at the lit operating room and just shook his head. "That car." Jai Heng patted his shoulder and looked intently at the entrance of the emergency room. Old Madame Su had just arrived, leaning on her cane, her expression panicked. What on earth happened? Shen Qing had 2 large tubes of blood drawn. Inside the emergency room, the doctor came out with the patient consent form for surgery, and a crowd of people immediately gathered around. "Does the patient have any family medical history?" "Her mother." Jai Heng took a sharp breath. Died of malignant hyperthermia. The doctor looked up at Jai-heng with a changed expression, then immediately called out for the nurse. Go and check if the anesthesiology department has dantrolene. Then he turned back in a rush. Both the mother and the fetus are in great danger right now, and no volunteers have come to donate blood. I suggest transferring to the Jiangjing General Hospital in Xinjiang District, where they have the best facilities and the most advanced research institutes. We'll report to our superiors as quickly as possible. The danger was evident from his words. Let's transfer hospitals quickly, Shen Qing said anxiously, pressing her wrist, and looked towards Jai Sheijun. Mr. Lance, would it work if you said he'd come? They still didn't know what malignant hyperthermia was. Jai Sheijun soothed her. Mr. Lance is a surgeon, not a gynecologist. Shen Qing, when anxious, tended to blurt out rashly. Old Madam Su got a headache listening to her. What Lance or not Lance? Stop the noise. Old Madam Su directed her gaze at Su En and calmly instructed. You call Director Li and ask if he could arrange an emergency transfer. Director Li was a physician known to Su En from Jiangjing General Hospital. Previously in Xiancheng, Su En had also called him. Taking out his phone, Su En dialed the chief physician. It was very late and the matter was urgent. Car accident, panda blood, pregnant woman, malignant hyperthermia. Any hospital would dare not accept just a combination of any two of these factors, not to mention 4 buffs together. It would be fit for publishing in Nature. Old friend, why is it that every time something happens, it's this complicated? The chief physician was also troubled. Even in our hospital, it's a life and death situation. I'll ask the anesthesiology department if they have dantrolene and send it over to you immediately. Obviously, they couldn't transfer hospitals. Jai-heng decisively turned around and asked, Zio Achen? The butler supported the old lady and addressed Jai-heng very respectfully. Eldest Master Jai, the General Hospital is not managed by the Chen family. It's part of Xinjiang General Hospital. The hospital also has its own protocols. Mr. Chen can't do anything. Shen Qing twirled her fingers. I'll draw some more blood for her. Shall we call Alien over? Bai Lion also had panda blood. Although Shen Qing did not want her to donate blood for Jai Mulan, the nurse was refusing her blood donation now. Bai Lion. Upon mentioning Bai Lion, the agitated Jai Heng finally remembered. He recalled the night from many years ago, his eyes deep and determined as he took out his phone and called Bai Lion. He didn't ask her to come and donate blood, but simply asked, Alien, can you get in touch with Ziojiang? Jiang Fulai had just returned. Nobody had been informed, not even Jiang He. Lion leaned against the balcony, her hair all hanging behind her head. She casually thrust one hand into her pocket, while stray strands of hair fell across her forehead. In her other hand, she held a cell phone, her pale fingers tapping on the screen. A truck! Her eyes narrowed slightly. With many newcomers at Jiang University these days, there were more vehicles, and all were driving slowly, careful not to accidentally collide with a new student. How could there be a car accident at this critical time? She walked into the dormitory, picked up the jade hairpin on the table, and began to slowly twist her hair up. Her dark, abyss-like eyes seemed unfathomably deep. Bai Lion had planned to wait for Zun Kaiyan to come out before taking a shower. Just as she removed the hairpin from her head, Jai Heng's call came through. Yu Simin had just taken her pajamas out and climbed down from the bed when she saw Bai Lion putting her hair back up, puzzled. Are you going out? Yes. Bai Lion secured her hair. No need to leave the door unlocked for me tonight. She reached out, took her laptop and cell phone, and left. After she'd gone, Kong Wei looked at her retreating figure and clicked her tongue. Why do I feel like Bai Lion has an even stronger presence than Zun Kaiyan? After speaking, another thought struck her. If we don't leave the door for her, where is she going to stay? After all, Bai Lion was not from Jiangjing. Speaking of which, it seemed that Bai Lion was the first to arrive in their dormitory. Downstairs, Bai Lion headed straight for the west gate. She was messaging Lance as she walked. She wasn't very familiar with modern hospitals, but Lance was, so she called him. Malignant hyperthermia, it's no problem if you have dantrolene. Lance immediately knew what was happening based on the description, but you said the patient has panda blood. Bai Lion's tone was unhurried. A pregnant woman plus a car accident. The one in trouble was Jai Mulin, but Bai Lion was not worried. That is indeed dangerous, but if she's saved, that's an SCI paper right there. Lance communicated fluently with Bai Lion in English. Such a case is rare, a beautiful emergency, a 1 in a million chance of survival. Who's the patient? She's essentially this body's biological mother, Bai Lion replied. Despite the awkwardness, Lance, who understood, was speechless. Messages can be revoked, but spoken words cannot. He opened his mouth and began to search for some adjectives. It's not necessarily too late. If your doctors are well-trained and manage to physically bring down the fever until dantrolene arrives, there's a good chance. All right, there is a doctor in my lab who was involved in a malignant hyperthermia case. I'll contact him for you. He could give you some constructive advice during the surgery. Jai Mulin's condition was nowhere near as complicated as Shen Qing's. With a bit of luck, she could be saved. The key was the medication and the presence of someone with experience in treating malignant hyperthermia. Compared to Shen Qing, she had more buffs to her advantage. After all, there weren't many doctors in Jiangjing who had experience with malignant hyperthermia. Bai Lion, not far away, Dean Huang was talking to a professor from the physics department with his hands behind his back, but when he saw Bai Lion, he stopped. Bai Lion, holding her computer, greeted Dean Huang politely. Dean Huang! Dean Huang's gaze fell on the computer in her hands, and his brows twitched. Zhangxing has research in various fields, and this computer had no logo. It was a very simple, ordinary-looking black ultra-thin laptop, unlike the ones Zhangxing released to the public. But as a student of academician Ma, Dean Huang had seen this computer more than once. Where are you headed? Dean Huang struggled to shift his gaze away from the laptop. I'm leaving the campus. Even when facing the dean of her college, Bai Lion was straightforward. I have something to attend to. Be safe, Dean Huang said warmly, unsure whether Bai Lion was going to meet academician Ma. How is your exam preparation going? Not bad. Bai Lion spotted the car turning from the left and bid farewell to Dean Huang. Dean Huang, my ride's here, I must go. She got into the car. Dean Huang stood in place, watching the black car Bai Lion boarded with a very distinctive license plate. He had a hunch. The professor standing next to Dean Huang had remained silent up until now, and only after the black car had driven away did he speak. Bai Lion. Is she this year's high school valedictorian? Upon hearing this, Dean Huang smiled. The professor walked behind Dean Huang and couldn't help but glance back in the direction the black car had taken. The driver was Ming Dingheng. He had just driven Jiang Fulai away from Jiang University when Bai Lion's call came in. In the back seat, Jiang Fulai didn't open the window but was talking calmly on the phone. Butler Jiang, I won't be coming back for the time being. I will go straight to Shanghai apartment later. Ming Dingheng drove the car steadily. Bai Lion sat next to Jiang Fulai, opened her laptop, and leisurely flipped through the research papers she had saved. Why did you bring the computer out? Jiang Fulai asked as he hung up the phone, seeing Bai Lion looking at her computer, her profile illuminated by the soft glow of the screen. I'm used to it. The laptop contained a hard drive's worth of data left to her by an academician from Ma Institute, which she didn't feel comfortable leaving in her dorm. Jiang Fulai rested his wrist on his knee, turning to look at the research papers on her laptop. Very familiar. He narrowed his eyes. Only Ming Dingheng in the driver's seat found it odd. Wasn't Jai Mulin supposed to be critically ill? Yet Miss Bai and Jiang Fulai didn't seem very anxious. There wasn't much traffic at this time, and the Jiang University-affiliated hospital was nearby. They quickly arrived at the hospital. At the emergency room entrance, the police were still negotiating with Suen. Suen's grandmother stood by the emergency room door, turning her Buddha beads and praying for Jai Mulin and the child in her womb to be safe. Ever since she learned that Bai Lion had topped the college entrance exam, she had taken a keen interest in the fetus carried by Jai Mulin. After all, having given birth to someone as intelligent as Bai Lion, Jai Mulin's genes must be very good. Su Xiuji and Su Weniao had already arrived. She held a folder and whispered to Su's assistant, "What's the situation? How could there be a car out of control near Jiang University?" "Don't know," Sue's assistant hadn't accompanied Sue-En today and had only arrived shortly before. The current issue is, which hospital has danquixorin? Malignant hyperthermia was a rare condition. Danquixorin had a short shelf life, and the drug itself was expensive, so few hospitals kept it in stock. Sue-En had already sought the chief physician of the main hospital. The doctor came out of the emergency room, glancing back at the clock outside the operating room. The patient urgently needs a blood transfusion and danquixorin. The main hospital just used their last vial last month. We're still contacting other hospitals. If you have any connections, ask the research institutes if they have any in stock. Oddly enough, the main hospital would usually have a stock, but it just happened to have used one last month. Sue-En's grandmother turned to Su Weniao, anxious. "Weniao, don't you know some lab people? Ask them if they know anything." Su Weniao bowed his head, pressing on WeChat. "I'm already asking. They're also trying to find a way." Given the urgency of the situation, Shen Qing went to draw another tube of blood, pressing her arm as she approached. Jai Heng simply kept his gaze fixed on the interior of the emergency room, maintaining this posture since the beginning. "What does the building butler say?" Jai Shaojun hung up the phone and shook his head. "He says he's making contacts." The two conversed, while beside them, for the first time, Sue-En's grandmother and Su Shuji heard of the matter. Who was the building butler? Just then, the elevator doors beside them opened, and a girl in white clothes walked out with her eyes downcast. Jiang Fulai walked on her left, with Ming Dingheng following behind, carrying car keys. After such a long time, seeing Jiang Fulai's exceptionally handsome and cold face again, both Su Shuji and Sue-En's grandmother couldn't help but stop and take a step back. The noisy exterior of the emergency room was, at this moment, so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Bai Lion stopped beside Jai Heng, standing there indolently. As long as Jai Heng and Jai Shaojun were all right, Bai Lion was easy to deal with. She even politely greeted Sue-En and Su Weniao. "How's it going?" Su Weniao glanced at the messages on his phone and shook his head, his face showing difficulty. "The situation isn't good. There's a shortage of the drug. Chen Hong said his cousin hasn't found the lab's medicine." "Ah!" Sue-En's grandmother got a bit panicked as Su Weniao was the only one who had connections in the labs. "Is this medicine really so scarce? Tell them that our Su family has money. We must find a way to get it." "Grandma, if we could get it, we would definitely use it to save her," a nurse explained to the elderly lady. "But the drug is rare to begin with. The one stored in the main hospital was used up, and if those labs don't have it, then we really have no other options." Jiang Fulai followed Bai Lion at an unhurried pace. He lowered his baseball cap and didn't look at the others, speaking on the phone. However, Shen Qing looked at Bai Lion. "Alien, your mother. She still needs blood." Su Weniao paused. "You two have panda blood. You are Rh negative," the nurse, a bit anxious, hurriedly said. "Come with me quickly." Bai Lion glanced at the emergency room and rolled up her sleeve nonchalantly. "Sure." Her state was nearly polar opposite to the last time Shen Qing was injured. Beside her, Jiang Fulai accurately caught her wrist and looked up at the emergency room. 7th floor emergency room. After speaking a few more words in a low voice, he hung up the phone, his eyes coldly sweeping past the nurse beside him. Under the light, his sharp facial contours became even more defined. "There's a Rh-negative blood bank in Jiangjing." His voice was cold as well. The nurse didn't dare look at him and didn't hurry Bai Lion to have her blood drawn anymore, only puzzled. When did they start having a blood bank for something as rare as Rh-negative blood? At this moment, downstairs, an elderly man with graying hair pressed the elevator button, unaware to others. Beneath his calm exterior beat an exceedingly excited heart. He had been sent back the last time he arrived in Damping City, but this time he finally had an opportunity to prove himself. Mr. Mew to come out of retirement 17th floor. Sue-En had lost the mood to negotiate with the police, and Ming Dingheng took the officer aside. Bai Lion's phone rang, this time with a WeChat video call. "Lance." "Bai," said Lance, now wearing a suit made for him by Jai Heng, as he spoke to Bai Lion. "I had a student who was involved in a case of malignant hyperthermia." Because he had complimented Bai Lion's mother as a beautiful case, Lance went to the lab to make amends. Jiang Fulai lowered his head, and when Lance saw him, he greeted, "Hey, Jiang." Bye. Lance looked at the Jiang University Hospital emblem behind Bai Lion. His eyes lit up. "You're in Jiangjing?" "Yes, I'm studying here." Since there was a blood bank, Bai Lion wasn't in a hurry to draw blood anymore. "The AIS International Medical Summit is being held in Jiangjing." Lance was talking to Bai Lion. Just then, the door to the operating room opened again. The anesthetist raised his hand as he came out of the surgery room, looking palely at the people present. "Mr. Su, the patient's temperature has reached 42 degrees, and the fetus inside might." Old Madame Su's fingers holding the cane were trembling. If it wasn't for Bai Lion and Jai Heng being there, she would want to ask if it was possible to take the child out first. Suen had already called Dr. Li again, asking about Dankwilorin. "Doctor, please hang in there, we're already looking for it." Right then, the elevator doors opened. An elderly man with graying hair stepped out towards the doorway, his gaze sweeping the corridor before finally resting on Jiang Fulai, young Master Jiang. In his hand, he was holding a box exuding coldness with a blue exterior. The anesthetist, looking at the elder with graying hair, hesitated for a moment before recognizing him. "Dean Gu." Dean Gu looked at the anesthetist and handed over the blue box. "Dankwilorin still frozen. Hurry and save someone." The anesthetist glanced down at the medicine box in Dean Gu's hand, and without having time to wonder why the head of the main hospital was here, he quickly turned and dashed towards the emergency room. Bai Lion casually lowered her eyes and spoke to Lance before handing her phone to a nurse who had just brought over a bag of blood. "A teacher has done research on malignant hyperthermia. Take it in. It might help." If it were any other patient's relative who took out a phone and said a teacher could help, the nurse would call security to drag away the patient's family. But this relative of the patient could adjust the Rh-negative blood supply and managed to get Dankwilorin in a short period of time. The nurse did not immediately take the phone, but instead pushed the blood in first, then came out to get Bai Lion's phone for disinfection, and re-entered the emergency room. "Doctor," said old Madame Su, stepping forward with her cane, "is there hope now? We can't be certain, but with Dankwilorin there's a great chance," the nurse said hastily before going inside. The door to the operating room closed again. With the medicine's arrival, the people in the hallway could finally relax again. Suen looked at Bai Lion and Jiang Fulai, who was now wearing a duckbill cap and standing to Bai Lion's left. He had his head slightly down, his clean and slender fingers pressing on the phone, exuding an unapproachable aura. Suen whispered to Bai Lion, "Thank you." Jai Heng finally reacted. His dark eyes showed different colors as he thanked Jiang Fulai. "Zio Jiang, we owe you a lot this time, making you take this trip." He knew Jiang Fulai must have just returned not long ago. Jiang Fulai put down his phone, acting gracefully. "It's no big deal." Aside, Dean Gu's gaze landed on Bai Lion again for a moment, and he didn't dare say anything, only asking Ming Dingheng in a low voice, "No head injury?" Ming Dingheng nodded coolly. "Well, it seems you don't need my help." Dean Gu paused, then stood with his hands behind his back. "Then may I take my leave first?" Ming Dingheng watched him expressionlessly. Dean Gu, "It's okay." Half an hour later, the anesthetist returned with Bai Lion's phone and handed it back to her. "The patient's temperature has dropped, and she is no longer in life-threatening danger. We need to thank Mr. Albert for giving us critical guidance." Mr. Albert was the doctor Lance had found for Bai Lion, who had researched malignant hyperthermia. A narrow escape, a nightmare for all the doctors in the emergency room. Fortunately, the rescue was successful. Jiang Fulai finally looked at Bai Lion. "Shall we go back?" It was already 11 o'clock, and since there was no more danger to life, Bai Lion didn't linger. She took her phone and left for Shanghai apartment with Jiang Fulai. By this time, the dormitory doors were already closed. After they left, Suen appeared very wearied, having been tense all night long, and his spirits were not good. "I'm sorry, I shouldn't have brought her out." "It has nothing to do with you." Jai Heng simply looked intently at the emergency room, uttering only this phrase, his thoughts unknown. Su Xiuji and Su Weniao, seeing that Jai Mulan's life was not in danger, also relaxed. Su Xiuji turned to the Su assistant. "Do you know the doctor Bai Lion mentioned?" The Su assistant remembered Lance, relieved. It must be one of Dr. Lance's people. Lance, who was that? Just as Su Shuji was curious, Jai Mulan's attending physician came out again to report that all was well. Doctor, thank you so much. Su En and the Su family repeatedly expressed their gratitude. We were just doing our duty. The doctor shook his head. Mainly it was because the blood from the main hospital's blood bank arrived in time, and the hospital director personally delivered the Dankwaralin, with guidance from an MTR doctor. As he spoke, the doctor's manners toward the Su family became increasingly polite. RH-negative blood bank, Director Gu, people from MTR. The old MTR lady hadn't heard of it. She simply turned her head to ask Su Weniao. Weniao, was that elderly gentleman just now the director of the main hospital? He Wen personally guided the mathematical modeling. Director Huang added him on WeChat. Academician Ma from Ma Institute saw Bai Lion off at the airport. Su Weniao could still accept today's event as it had unfolded. That should be him. It's good that everyone is all right now. It was late, and Su Weniao didn't go back to the dorms, hitching a ride in Su Shuji's car instead. The Jiang from Meng Jiang. Su Weniao looked down at his phone. 2 hours earlier, Director Huang had sent him a message. Send me the mathematical modeling results after they're out. Mathematical modeling. Su Weniao sat up straight. He had great respect for Director Huang. After completing the mathematical modeling during the summer, he and Chen Hong spent a lot of time in the library, reading many papers and books sent by He Wen. Su Weniao, Director Huang, I understand. Jiang was also a prominent surname. Ever since the wedding last time, Su Shuji had vaguely heard Jai Heng calling that man Ziojiang. She had always thought it was Jiang or something similar, but since Su Weniao had just mentioned Jiang, Su Shuji, connecting the dots with Director Chen, suddenly stepped on the brakes and stopped the car by the roadside. She turned to Su Weniao in shock. He couldn't possibly be. The next day, early morning, Bai Lion got up for breakfast and she'd have to go to school later. Su Weniao called just in time, informing Bai Lion that Jai Mulan's baby had been successfully delivered by C-section and was now in the incubator. Oh! Bai Lion, with her dark hair partially gathered at the back of her head, casually picked up a bun sent over by Kangyu Tower, her response indifferent. Su Weniao was calling so early not just because of this. Do you know the results of the mathematical modeling competition will be out this morning? This Bai Lion really didn't know. Upon hearing no response from Bai Lion, Su Weniao knew she wasn't concerned with these matters and probably wouldn't bother to check the results. The winners need to do a defense presentation. Chen Hong is already preparing his defense PPT. I'll send you the results as soon as they come out. Su Weniao mainly wanted to talk to Bai Lion about the mathematical modeling. He was confident about winning an award. He just wasn't sure if it could be a first prize. Jiang Fulai stood on Bai Lion's balcony, dressed in a white shirt today, with the cufflinks removed and the sleeves rolled up several times. His delicate brows and eyes were lowered, his voice low and pressured as he spoke with someone on the other end of the phone. Don't want to go to school. Wait for me to come back. Bai Lion hung up the phone to hear his voice. Knowing he was talking about Jianghe, he's just in first grade, isn't it too hard on him? He also needs to integrate into society. Jiang Fulai hung up the phone, returned to the living room, and sat down beside Bai Lion, slowly picking up some chopsticks. Bai Lion paused, lazily tilting her head. What if he ends up thinking, what on earth am I doing in a classroom with these things? As she spoke, Jiang Fulai's brow began to twitch. Eat, Miss Bai. Jiang Fulai raised his hand, elegantly picking up a crystal dumpling and placing it in her bowl. That physics notebook was still with Bai Lion, who would take it out and flip through it occasionally. How could Jiang Fulai not know Miss Bai's remarkable memory? He guessed she had memorized every single one of his scribbled complaints in there. After breakfast, Bai Lion printed out the papers he had given her in the study room. Jiang Fulai stood by, unhurriedly using the stapler to bind her papers together, his gaze coolly skimming over the documents. Dormitory. When Bai Lion returned, Kong Wei was talking to someone at the staircase entrance. Seeing Bai Lion, she waved excitedly. Bai Lion, come over, this student is from your hometown. From my hometown? Bai Lion replied to Tang Ming in the group chat, saying she would grab a book and then join them. Ning Xiao and Tang Ming had already secured a spot in the library. Mr. Mu, to come out of retirement, 3 Jiang University's freshmen had no classes these 2 days, with military training not scheduled until sophomore year. Yes, same surname as you, Bai, named Bai Shayaki, Kong Wei whispered to Bai Lion, who had walked up beside her. She mentioned that her brother's teacher is a student of our dean. Bai Lion just looked up, her gaze meeting Bai Shayaki's across the way. Bai Shayaki, who made many friends at school, watched Bai Lion without speaking. Bai Lion withdrew her gaze, greeted Kong Wei, and headed for dorm room 407. Then we'll have a chance to talk another time. Kong Wei felt something was off, so she gave Bai Shayaki a smile and hurried after Bai Lion back to 407. Inside the dormitory, Bai Lion placed her laptop and printed references on the table, along with a small pot of succulents that Jiang Fulai had insisted she take with her. Kong Wei brought up Bai Shayaki to Yu Simin. Yu Simin was clearly aware of the dean of the physics department. Her brother's teacher is our physics department's dean. That impressive. But everyone at Jiang University is impressive. Just look at our senior He Wen. Su Kaiyan came out of the bathroom and heard them talking about He Wen. She looked up. You know He Wen. We know of senior He Wen, but he doesn't know us, Kong Wei said with an amused smile. Senior He Wen is the idol of us from Zicheng. We're planning to go to the #1 doctoral building for a visit later. Are you coming? I won't be going. You guys have fun. Su Kaiyan looked away and grabbed her books before leaving. Beneath the dormitory building, Song Min was waiting for Bai Shayaki, and the 2 of them went to find Bai Shayak together. I just saw Bai Lion, Bai Shayaki said quietly, glancing at him. We're in the same dorm building. Song Min paused for a moment, his gaze falling, but he didn't say anything. Jiang University was filled with talents. Song Min had become just an ordinary person there, something he had realized since his last visit to Jiangjing. Soon, the 2 of them arrived at the building where Bai Shayak was staying, and Bai Shayaki called him from downstairs. Wait for me a moment. Bai Shayak was looking for Dr. Zhuo. He said in a hushed tone on his phone, I'll come down right away. After speaking, he hung up and entered the office. Inside the office, Dr. Zhuo looked up and towards Bai Shayak. The teacher is very concerned about the outcome of this math modeling competition. Dr. Zhuo's teacher was Dean Huang. Above Dean Huang, that would be academician Ma. Bai Shayak replied, a first prize might be a bit difficult. You're only a sophomore. There are also international students participating this time, not to mention numerous juniors and seniors. Dr. Zhuo opened an email. Getting a second prize would already be outstanding. When the time comes, I will apply for a recommendation for graduate study for you and take you to meet the teacher. Thank you, Dr. Zhuo. Dr. Zhuo smiled. A good result in the competition also benefits my application for professional title review. Waiting for the results of this competition wasn't just Bai Shayak. Qi Jun and a few others were also waiting. They were seniors now, with not many classes left. Yu Sheng and Qi Jun left the dormitory building, heading to the computer room, when Su Weniao and Chen Hong returned from outside. Chen Hong's voice sounded excited. Weniao, you told the junior, right? The results are out today. Yeah, she's at the library with her classmate. We'll find her later. Su Weniao had just come from the hospital, carrying the faint smell of disinfectant. Walking beside Qi Jun, Yu Sheng heard Chen Hong mention the math modeling competition. Chen Hong, you guys are so happy. Did you get the second prize in the competition? Chen Hong looked up to see Qi Jun and others. He paused, having barely interacted with them since Qi Jun dropped out of the team before the competition. Should be, no problem. Su Weniao nodded to a few acquaintances and then went upstairs to his dorm to grab books and find Bai Lion. Even Qi Jun felt not so certain about the second prize this time. Hearing Chen Hong's words, Yu Sheng couldn't help but complain to Qi Jun. He actually says there's no problem with the second prize. Never mind that they've got a freshman on their team. The key point is they don't even have a supervising teacher. But Qi Jun, your team should be secure for the second prize, right? Should be. Qi Jun adjusted his black-framed glasses. Then you should be able to secure the recommendation for graduate study, Yu Sheng said enviously. Qi Jun shook his head. A first prize would secure it. A second prize depends on the chances. You're so smart. You definitely will be recommended. Chimis has introduced you to Dr. Zuo. Meanwhile, at the Mu family residence, the butler was reporting Jiang Shaojun's matter to Mu Yining, who looked up. His sister is also in Jiangjing. Yes, she's the mother of Miss Bai. The butler had made contact with the right people last night. By the time we found the laboratory, they had already obtained the medication. People are now out of danger, and it said that the baby she gave birth to is still in the incubator. As long as the person is okay, prepare a gift for me. How could there suddenly be a car accident? Did you check it out? Hearing it was by Lion's mother, Mu Yining stopped in her tracks. Still under investigation, a break issue. The Mu family always took these matters seriously, especially after a major incident in the past. However, Jai Mulin had never returned to the Mu family home, so the butler thought it was an accident. She took the coat handed to her by a servant and put it on herself. Speaking of accidents, Mu Yining fell silent for a moment. Where's my dad? Did he come out today? When it came to this, the butler took hold of his cane and walked a few steps forward, speaking with concern. You know, these days, he won't leave the Buddhist hall. Yesterday was the anniversary of the death of Mu Qiang and her group of young talents. These days, Mu Xiangguang barely ate anything. As they were talking, at the gate of the residence, Assistant Wang ran in without a prior notice. Mr. Mu. Mr. Mu. The Mu family was always strict about rules, and the butler, seeing his flustered appearance, said, Assistant Wang, why all the fuss? Assistant Wang was too short of breath to explain to the butler, merely handing a set of documents over to Mu Yining. We couldn't find news about Miss Bai, but there's a lot of news about her in Xiancheng. As soon as Mu Yining heard it was about Bai Lion, she reached out her hand. The butler was still unaware that Mu Yining had dined with Bai Lion, looking at Mu Yining in surprise. Miss, you met with Miss Bai. Mu Yining didn't respond. She opened the envelope, and inside were several photographs and news clippings. The first picture was a screenshot of a news broadcast from Xiancheng No. 1 High School, with the background of the school gates adorned with several banners. The first one in red with white characters, strikingly noticeable. Congratulations to our student Bai Lion for achieving the national top score in the science section of the college entrance examination. Xiangguang's courtyard. At 8 in the morning, wafts of sandalwood scent drifted through the bead curtain. When Mu Yining arrived, a servant was carrying out a stack of meals, untouched. Seeing her, he stepped aside and bowed slightly. Mu Yining extended her hand to part the bead curtain and entered. Inside, the light was dim and smoke curled through the air. She crossed the hall and walked into the adjoining room. The small room had no windows, only a dim yellow lamp. Mu Xiangguang, donned in a gray monk's robe, knelt with his back to her before a Buddha statue, murmuring, 32 features, 80 kinds of excellence, all perfectly possessed, to inspire immeasurable beings to arise. Mu Yining, holding an envelope, knelt quietly behind him to the right, hands joined together, gazing at the Buddha statue. After Mu Xiangguang finished reciting that section, he gently turned a page of the scripture in front of him. Only when he stopped did Mu Yining speak. Dad, a few days ago I met Uncle's granddaughter. Her name is Bai Lion, and she looks very spirited. Mu Xiangguang rotated the Buddha beads, his voice deep and filled with vicissitudes. Have they all returned to Jiangjing? Pick some gifts for them from the storeroom. She is a freshman in the physics department at Jiang University this year. Mu Yining watched his silhouette. Mu Xiangguang continued to turn the Buddha beads without hesitation, only nodding. From Baikeng, she took the college entrance exam in Xiancheng. Mu Yining lowered her head to glance at the photo in her hand. But this year, she surpassed the Liang family and became the valedictorian of the high school exam. Most people, upon hearing the surname Liang, would think of it as a ceiling of intellect. After all, the world knows of Liang Ziyuan. Mu Xiangguang's hand paused for a moment, his murky eyes fixed on the scripture in front of him, his voice wavering slightly. The valedictorian, Dad, Mu Yining clenched the envelope. Please come out. And Jiazhao too, we're all still waiting for you. Mu Xiangguang once led the family forward. After the Mu family's catastrophe, it seemed to take him away too. Me! Mu Xiangguang's self-deprecating voice emerged as he closed his eyes, beating the wooden fish rhythmically. Yining, I'm just a broken man now. What more can I offer the family? These young people. They can't all be ruined by my hands. Mu Yining looked at Mu Xiangguang's back. He never once turned around from beginning to end. She placed the sealed envelope beside him, and after bowing 3 times to the Buddha statue, she rose and left. Outside on the path, the butler was still waiting for Mu Yining. Seeing her emerge, his aged face was full of hope. How did it go? Mu Yining looked up at the rising sun above and shook her head without a word. The butler, reading her expression, understood the situation. He saw Mu Yining out, and Assistant Wang was already waiting for her at the gate. The butler placed a gift box into the car. Miss, try to drink less, and then instructed Assistant Wang, be smart and help Miss block more drinks. The butler stood still, watching Mu Yining's car drive away. Once she was gone, the butler turned to Zioji beside him and murmured, Mr. Jai's niece is the high school valedictorian. Jiang University has 8 libraries. Bai Lion visited the one at the intersection of Nanmei District and Rose District. Just after getting off the school bus, she received a voice message from Yi Jingxian on WeChat. Senior sister. Bai Lion, still wearing her Bluetooth headset, was very polite. Junior sister. Yi Jingxian's voice was gentle. For this year's welcome party, why don't you perform an act? There's a formidable newcomer in the finance department who is a student of a professor from Jiangyin. Other departments are also preparing big moves. I've counted our department's new students this year, and it's only you and Zun Kaiyan. Senior sister, I'm a bit busy. Bai Lion was not making excuses. She had exams for her Tingfeng class and also a mathematical modeling defense to prepare for. Junior sister, Yi Jingxian pleaded over the phone, could you just sing a simple song? Our department has always had more boys. It's been years since we had someone impressive like you. You're also our representative new student this year. Never mind, are you in your dorm? I'll come to find you and we can talk in detail. Bai Lion stood under a camphor tree at the library entrance, looking at the address Tang Ming had sent, located in a small study room on the 4th floor. Senior sister, I'm at the library, and I have things to do this afternoon as well. The library. Yi Jingxian hadn't expected her to hit the library on the first day of school. Obviously, a top student. Well, junior sister, I will come to visit you tonight to discuss this in detail. Please help, junior sister. Okay. Bai Lion hung up the WeChat call, slowly removed a leaf that had fallen on her arm, and waited outside the library for a while.